Hello, hello, hello. How are we all doing today? I'm doing great. Not gonna lie. Had a pretty good day today. Hope all of you also had a pretty good day today. So, today we're going to be finally going over the Subnautica situation. I know that one kind of passed me by since I don't really play Subnautica. So, I'm kind of excited to see what happened there. I don't actually know what happened there, so I figure that now's a good time to figure that out. We have a couple of our regulars of Bellulor and Rev in there. I think we'll probably only be making it to the Rev video since there's a lot of content here to kind of go over, but halfway through we're going to be taking a break in the sense of we're going to be taking a break from any of the heavy topics. And there was a trailer released about 7 days ago for the Backrooms movie coming out. And if you don't know anything about like the community around that, that's fine. A lot of people might not, but there's a good creator out there called Kane Pixels or Kane or however it's pronounced. I'm not quite sure. But he basically got picked up by Studio A24, which Studio A24 has released certified bangers. They are a great studio, and they're an indie studio. At least they're more on the indie side of things, and they're picking them up for an actual full-fledged feature film, which I'm super excited for. You know me, I love having all my indie stuff. I hope they give them the treatment, so to speak, and it's really good. It's looking really good from the trailer, which is cool. And we're going to be talking about some browser-based indie games later on in the middle of this, mostly because I love browser-based indie games. I loved them when I was a kid, and I still love them to this day. And a lot of people don't know. A lot of them have come to Steam, and a lot of the companies that made them are continuing to make games. Hello, says Mansuri. Hello. Welcome, welcome. You caught me in the middle of my introductory spiel. Oh, wow. Maybe I'm having a bad time speaking today. I mean, well, it's a day ending why. Sometimes I mix up my words. But we're also going to go into something that Brendan Herrera is talking about. I'm not quite sure what it is, but this released a little bit ago, and it's talking about actual legislation in a way. And I do have a very vested interest in talking about that because I do think that there are certain interpretation of laws that are currently on the books that I disagree with, at least on a legal standing, maybe not in effect, but definitely on a legal standing. So you're going to hear some probably interesting opinions from my part on that. But anyway, let's get right into the Subnautica drama. We'll see what's happening with Subnautica. Okay, and we are literally muted. That's funny. All right. The Legendary Drops video. We like Legendary Drops. We love him. He's a great content creator. I get nearly almost exclusively all my gaming news from content creators nowadays because you don't hate journalists enough. All right. Let's see what you got for us, brother.
This is a story that is honestly too good not to tell. We have a CEO that was so desperate to hide their own mistakes that they executed the takeover of a studio. They fired the founding members, lied about them, smeared their names, tried to ruin their reputation, lied to the players, all because they didn't want to pay out money that they had promised.
Sounds about right. I mean, from what I hear in general, that kind of just happens a lot of the time when they're trying to cover up malpractice on a CEO's part. I don't know. I think that, if you are going to do something fishy, not giving you any advice on how to do something criminal, but if you are going to do something criminal, maybe you shouldn't call attention to what you're doing.
Luckily,
just saying,
this CEO, being the genius that he is, ignored his own legal counsel, used ChatGPT to come up with this evil plan.
Oh, what a hero.
And now the whole thing has blown up in his face. The premise of this is just, it's absurd to me.
It sounds like a poorly written cartoon.
It's been nearly a year, but
I'd have seen this waking up on a Saturday morning.
Just won their court case against their own publisher, Krafton. And the
Krafton,
judge is now saying,
no, why does it have to be Krafton? I hate those guys. They ruin everything. Okay, for those of you who don't know, Krafton as a publisher comes in usually at the end of games' life cycles and picks up games and then just dries them out for as much money as they possibly can before they run them into the ground. I will consider it a complete and total win if at the end of this, Krafton ceases to exist as a company.
Said that these founding members need to be
I
reinstated,
hate
given
those
full and
guys.
complete control of Subnautica 2 as well as the studio.
Hate is a strong word. I think it's appropriate in this case. I hate those guys, the company, not the people, individuals in the company, but the unit, the entity known as Krafton is worthy of that strong word.
That Krafton still has to pay the $250 million bonus that's promised to them when Subnautica 2 comes to early access this May. And they also said that the CEO has to live in exile. Okay, I made up that last part, but still, don't you guys love
I mean, you might as well.
Justice is served?
Get him out of here.
Now, while this story has
take his business
ending,
license away,
every story like this does. And I think this is just going to become a bigger and bigger issue further and further down the road that we get, because indie games has just been doing so damn well.
Yep.
And when you look at a lot of these publishers,
well, here's the problem: is like a lot of publishers, like especially these really shady, like kind of, how would I call them? Publishers that like to take advantage of not only the gaming public, but games like creators in general, or maybe even they profit off of essentially being the vultures that they are, picking apart whatever they can before, or extracting all the value that they can before eventually flying away. They are going to come after indie games pretty hard as well. And I don't know. I hate it when it happens. I'm going to be completely honest. It is one of those things that when I see it, it always makes me disappointed, because legally speaking, there's nothing that there's no repercussions that I have, because it's a legal business practice, even though I don't think it should be.
That are lacking talent or even a single original idea, they want a piece of what indie has, and they will ruin these guys to get it.
Yeah, they will. 100%.
Today, I want to go over this in detail. I don't want to just talk about the court case. I actually want to talk about how this affects indie studios, how big of a threat these publishers are. I want to cover the court case. I want to cover the founding of Unknown Worlds, and I want to cover how this impacts everybody.
But if you are ever making a game and you are approached by a publisher and you're an indie dev, you need to make sure that you're looking at that with an incredible grain of salt and incredible skepticalness, because most publishers do not give a fuck about you, and they are there solely to extract value from you.
For that, a word from today's sponsor, Displayed. These guys actually just recently sent me a brand new limited edition Expedition 33 Displayed. And I'm going to take a look with you guys right now.
Honestly,
oh man,
if I had
dude.
If I had something like a Dark Souls one, I think I might actually get one of those in the future.
Display just dropped a limited edition
those things are pretty
collaboration with Expedition 33, and this is not just another.
And
poster.
they're always
this
in collaboration.
With
so
you have 3D printed elements with Mael and Alicia. You have textured hair and fabric, a gilded gloss frame, pure iridescent and graphite.
By the way, that's like a huge
across all this holographic accents. It just looks incredible in person.
Part of the story. I should have listed a spoiler alert in front of this ad, by the way.
Metal posters that mount magnetically, no tools, no wall damage, just stick a magnet to the wall and snap it in place. It takes seconds, and swapping them out is just that easy. They've got over 1 million designs across games, anime, movies, including texture prints that have added depth, limited edition prints like the one I just showed off that don't get restocked, and even custom displays where you can upload your own images and turn them into a clean metal print.
That's awesome.
If you're into collecting, or you just like to have something that looks really cool on your wall, this Expedition 33 piece is definitely worth checking out. I should get one for my dog. Basically anything that these guys have. Make sure you use code Legendary at checkout. Hit the link in the description and grab something before it's gone. Unknown Worlds was founded by Charlie Cleveland, Ted Gill, and Max McGuire in 2001. And not unlike a lot of other indie studios at the time, these guys were just born out of the Half-Life modding scene and just a pure love for making video games. In a developer blog, Charlie had said,
Half-Life modding scene. A lot of game developers started there. It's really cool.
Said that during the release of Natural Selection, a free mod that went viral, something this guy made nothing off of, he just knew that he had to make a company just so that he could keep making games. And he started asking people for donations through PayPal. He had people that were actually sending him like $20 bills through the mail. He pulled together about $18,000.
That's actually pretty funny. That's cool.
And he started hammering on investor doors looking to fund Natural Selection 2. After locking in the initial funding, he convinced other founders to join. They took on some middleware.
I don't even know, like, if finding an investor is, like, a great idea. at least for indie games, right? At least nowadays. Maybe back then when they started work on what I would assume to be Subnautica or whatever they started as their first project, maybe it might have been a good idea, but every time I've seen like an indie game or indie developers talking about like investors and they're not already kind of like a known indie game company, it's always like a nightmare because they have to pay it back, and you're taking a really bad crapshoot with like somewhat decently bad odds that you're gonna make money on your indie game. So I don't know if I would ever suggest taking investor money unless you know you're gonna be able to pay that back.
work in some contracted games just to be able to
I mean,
keep
then
the
again, I
lights
don't
on.
know all
Something
that
that a lot of
well, but
studios did back then, Digital Extremes as an example, the makers of Warframe, almost exclusively
I almost feel like
worked
that
on
you'd probably have
middleware
a problem
content
with
and things
it.
like that as well. But during all that time, Unknown Worlds was quietly building their own engine. And after 10 years of grinding, financial hardship, and genuine passion, they released Natural Selection 2, and it grossed over $1 million in its first week, an immediate commercial success for the studio that was nearing collapse at the time.
That's good.
But at least it bought them more time. That success led directly into Subnautica, which released in 2018, and this is actually the first of their games that I've played. It's a fresh take on survival instead
I
of
remember
the
when
usual
Subnautica,
experience
like,
you're
when
actually
it
building
came
and
out,
exploring underwater.
that
There's this constant
release
feeling of curiosity, confusion, and
that
dread
release
that
on
just
the
wraps around
Wii?
the entire
I think it did,
experience.
right?
You have almost no way to be able to defend yourself from what lurks below. You
Hang on, I gotta look something up. I want to make sure I'm not processing a false memory. Let me think. Did not. Okay, so that must have been a different game. But I remember seeing a game that was kind of like that on a different where am I at? There you go. On a different platform or something like that. Hang on, I'm sorry. I'm a little slow today. I got up not too long ago. There we go.
can rarely tell what's up and down, what's friendly or not, because of how
Did we-
alien everything looks
Okay, there we go.
to you, and
It was
you get
PC
so
release.
lost
What
in
are you smoking?
exploration, you constantly
There was
are
something that
running
was
out of
on the Wii that
oxygen.
I
This
have like
game
kind
just
of a
keeps
false memory
wowing
of.
you
I
with its
think.
beauty while also scaring the shit out of you at
I
every
said I
single
never played
turn.
it.
I cannot recommend it enough.
So I can't
and
really speak to it.
apparently, well, a lot of other people felt the same way because
I know a
Subnautica
lot of
sold
people
over
really like
5
it.
million copies in its first 2 years. It is now sitting at over 18 million copies by 2026, and it's one of the most recognized indie games in the entire industry.
I don't know. It might have been a PC. I saw
With the
somebody
studio
playing
now
it on
financially
a
stable, they
television,
began working on other projects, including
and I wasn't quite
Subnautica
sure what
Below
was going
Zero,
on.
a sub-sequel or something like that, I guess you would call it. It was originally meant to be a DLC, but got kind of spun out to being its own game, and it really didn't perform the same way. It wasn't really received the same way as the first game was. Now, somewhere around this time, Unknown World started to entertain the idea of acquisition offers, whether that was from the issues that they had with Below Zero's development, or maybe it was just the weight of how hard they had fought to get where they were that was finally catching up with them. I'm not really too sure, but in October of 2021,
Like, that's what I'll say is, like, in a perfect world, an acquisition would be great, right? Because ideally, the person acquiring you cares about your IP, doesn't want to just extract value from it, and will continue to, progress your company and your studio and give you autonomy in order to, pursue what you want. Like, kind of how the Disney acquisition of Pixar worked, where they said, we're going to buy Pixar and we're going to own them, but we're not gonna mess with them. And Pixar is still its own somewhat independent agency underneath the umbrella of Disney. But generally, that doesn't happen.
Krafton announced that they had purchased Unknown Worlds for $500 million. And with that,
That means if they purchased them for 5 million? I think he said 5 million. If they purchased them for $5 million, that means they thought that they could probably extract around $50 million out of them.
came the announcement of Subnautica 2 that was due for early access in
I'm just completely throwing
2025.
those numbers out there, but that
This
sounded
is a
about
story
right. Sounded
that is
about right
as
to me.
old as time itself. It is the origin story of just about every publisher, indie developer, major developer, whoever it is. A lot of these guys come from similar backgrounds. When I was reading Charlie's blog, one of the things that stood out to me was that he said that the only reason that he wanted to make a studio was because he was so obsessed with making his own games that he could barely work on anything else.
Yes.
That he enjoyed the process of making games, the collaboration.
That's a huge. You ever get somebody who's like that, who's like, I don't want to work with a company because the company is never going to let me do what I want to do. I want to do my own. Almost always the best games.
Of making games so much
At least
that
they're
he knew
good.
the only
They're
way
like
that he could
7 out of
continue to do
10s
it
and
is if
up.
he did it for himself and his team.
Hey, whoa, 500 million facepalm. So they bought it for 500 million. I don't think they did. I don't know. Goldfish brains happening.
They crawled through glass to make that happen. These guys struggled for years. They were on the edge of bankruptcy. And I was thinking like 10 years or something like that before these guys finally hit Subnautica. I'm guaranteeing you, the minute that they saw any instability again after that, they start getting World War II flashbacks and thinking that they're going to go back to that. Especially when you have so many people that you're now caring for, more developers that are working at the
Would you say that Krafton smelled blood in the water?
studio, more people
I'm
that are
sorry, I'll go
on
see
you,
myself out after that
you're
one.
probably going to get a little afraid. Some people thrive on that. Other people don't want to have anything to do with it. And all these guys want to do, they just want to make games. They don't want to worry about the financial side because the financial side prevents them from doing that. So they'd much rather hand over that control to somebody else.
I can imagine that too. Like, if you're a game developer, much like pretty much in any type of creative endeavor, I can understand the whole, I want to do X. I don't want to do Y. Y is boring, but if I don't do Y, then I can't do X. Because, like, X being like the entire part of, like, you know, everything that goes into making a game, and Y being every part that goes into allowing a game to be made. And I can understand not wanting to have to deal with all of the money that's involved with it without, you know, trying to negotiate deals with other things, making sure that you're able to publish on certain platforms, you're able to, you know, sell it at the right price, making sure that all that works, responding to emails, responding to if you have to outsource, making sure that everybody's like okay to communicate. The communicating part to build something is fine, but making sure that the infrastructure is there to communicate is also, you know, another thing. To put it on the stack, I guess we'll have to do that. So it's like, I understand that entire mentality, and it is a hassle. It's a huge hassle if you're like, I just want to make the game, and you're having literally every roadblock thrown in front of you, and having somebody else be able to just kind of take care of that is such a huge boon.
Just go back to making video
But
games.
rarely does it work
like that. What these
guys
start doing is they start seeking out predictability and stability and security from a lot of publishers because they think that's the best route to go. They believe that the only way for them to find security is under somebody else's roof.
Maybe.
That's how so many of these independent studios end up getting bought up. It's because these guys just want to have somebody else handle the business side, and they're just looking for something that's a little bit more predictable and gives them a lot more freedom to just work on making video games. But what a lot of these guys don't realize is
they're here to make money off of you.
Tightrope, all you did was just jump into a pool, and that pool is filled with sharks.
Yep.
Post-acquisition, things went quiet until October 2024 when Unknown Worlds would drop a trailer for some.
It's like, it's such a monkey's paw. It really is. It's like you're going to get something for it that might make it function, but you're certainly going to pay for it in the end.
Nautica 2, with an early access release date of 2025. The trailer hit 7.4 million views. Everybody was losing their mind. The game was on track. The developers were excited by every indication. This thing was headed towards a massive success, but trouble was brewing just below the surface.
Yeah, trouble's called
8 months
Krafton.
after that trailer, the game's YouTube page was still posting developer updates showing off new mechanics and things that they were working on. Krafton announced out of nowhere that the founders, Ted Gill, Charlie Cleveland, and Max McGuire, were leaving effective immediately. In a statement posted on the Krafton website,
that's a big uh-oh moment. Hey, by the way, everybody who's made the first game, great's gone.
they said that they had tried to keep the founders around, but couldn't, wished them well, and then spent the rest of the time quietly implying that something had gone wrong with development.
I hope that I'm going to get an answer to this, but my first initial thought is, did they leave because they wanted to leave? Did they leave because they were, implied that they were being forced to leave? And each of those have their own problem. Because if they feel like they wanted to leave, then I'm going to be like, okay, why did they want to leave? That doesn't sound good. That immediately puts my guard up. And if they were forced to leave, that also puts my guard up for another reason.
And the leadership. As a part
seems
of
a little
its oversight,
suspicious
Krafton
that
is
they would
committed
just
to achieving
leave.
regular milestones to assess progress across its creative studios. These reviews.
We've got corporate jargon. Okay. As part of this oversight, Krafton is committed to achieving regular milestones to access progress across its creative studios. That just means that we want to be Big Brother. Do you want me to spoil you? No, I'm pretty sure that I'll learn here. These reviews, based on clearly defined metrics and targets, will help ensure that games meet both creative and quality standards. This means nothing. Okay, you have no standards. It means that it's going to make money for us. This process is essential to delivering the right game at the right time. We're going to push it out the door, and we're going to update things as it goes because that's how we're going to extract immediate value from it. Unknown Worlds' new leadership fully supports this process and is committed to meeting players' expectations. We put the people who are sycophantic yes men in charge so that when we do receive any pushback, it'll be the right type of pushback that we can ignore.
Based clearly on defined metrics
Got
and
it.
targets will help ensure that the games both meet creative
What a load
and
of
quality
bullshit.
standards. This process is essential in delivering the right game at the right time.
If an update statement is more than 2 sentences long and you still don't have a clear picture of what's happening after what's been said has been read, you got a problem.
Unknown Worlds' new leadership fully supports this process and is committed to meeting player expectations. The statement would then go on to start quoting C.H. Kim, Krafton's CEO, about how all of this was for the players, how they're at the heart of every decision.
It's very much for the players. You are the players.
Except for that wasn't the truth, or at least it wasn't in the eyes of the founders, because in just a few weeks, they would file a lawsuit against Krafton and C.H. Kim for wrongful termination and breach of contract. Their claim was that the game was 100% ready for
So they didn't leave on their own accord, it seems.
early access, and that Kim had fired them specifically to try to dodge out on a $250 million bonus, a bonus that was tied to the successful early access launch of Subnautica 2.
Oh, great.
The founders then alleged in their filings that Kim had actually already admitted this to them directly, where he had said that if they hit their deadline and earned the payout, that it would be financially disastrous and hugely embarrassing for the company.
Wow. A company that exists purely to extract as much value as it can out of a product and then ready to drop the product after it's no longer financially viable is having money troubles. Who would have thought? I wonder where all the money went. Almost probably like it went into somebody's pocket and didn't go back into the company, like it probably should have, if this were a legitimate company. Thank you, Krafton. Stay classy.
He thought that he had gotten taken advantage of in the deal, a deal
yeah,
that
you
he
did.
had made.
You got had.
5 days after the suit was filed, Krafton would then announce that Subnautica 2
You've been
needed
scammed.
to be delayed, that quality standards were not being met, and then they publicly said that they were going to extend the bonus window to 2026, but
oh, okay. Well, we'll just go ahead and kick that shit out the door.
Reduce the payment to
start making money off of it right now. They'll buy it in early access. These people aren't real people.
They would also then go and file a counterclaim, and in a public statement, they said that 90% of the $250 was tied to the founders, contingent on them demonstrating active leadership and involvement in development. They would then keep this going by painting the developers as completely absent, working on personal projects like a Subnautica movie, effectively retired, and said that their absence is why the studio kept missing deadlines. These guys
is that so?
Going after the reputations of the people who built this.
Probably had nothing to do with with roadblocks that you put into place in order to specifically slow it down, right? I know how business works.
This thing. Now, people were torn because at least from the player's perspective, it looked like the developers were just trying to go after this $250 million because that's at least what the lawsuit was about. And Krafton's version made the founders sound greedy, like they were pocketing 90% of the payout while the rest of the team was doing all of the work. Some people bought.
I'm going to 100% guarantee that when Krafton acquired them, that was the immediate goal, is just run this shit into the ground and make as much money as you can and then drop them afterwards. They do not care about the quality of the game. They do not care about the game. They probably saw the game and said, I don't give a shit. Never played it. Never will play it. They just want to make money.
This. Charlie,
I am very cynical about this because I've seen it a million times before.
Ended up taking to Reddit and
hell, I've played a lot of the games that have suffered from this type of like cynical development or cynical publisher take, and every time I'm like, oh, yep, they got had. Like, I don't know how some people, like, I think some people definitely see it coming, like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to be dropped after this, we're going to sell it and we're getting out now. But I think some games, some game developers very altruistically are like, oh, we're going to get a publisher, we're going to be able to hold this out, we're going to be able to go longer, and we'll be able to, develop, provide a better game. They've been scammed.
back directly saying that the story about the payout is completely false.
Scammed
That
bigly.
the game is ready and he's in the industry because he loves it, not because of money. But even with support, nobody really knew what to believe. Then in March of 2026, the time of this video's recording, the air was finally cleared. With litigation still ongoing, the Court of Delaware has ordered that Crafton reinstates the fired founders and extends the $250 million bonus window to 2027.
Ooh.
The judge did not mince their words, very clearly found Crafton terminated the Unknown World studio head specifically to avoid paying out that $250 million bonus. And what came out in court has to genuinely be one of the funniest things I have ever seen.
These people do not like you. These people view you as a walking wallet.
Kim, CEO of Crafton, had used ChatGPT to orchestrate the entire hostile takeover. The founders were right. Kim thought it was a terrible deal and he wanted to get out of it. He was warned by his own legal team that this earnout would still have to be paid even if the dismissal was with cause, and that doing this would only expose Crafton to lawsuits and reputational risks. He ignored them.
Crafton doesn't have a reputation to risk.
And instead opened a chat window. ChatGPT told him the same thing, but he kept pushing, and AI just does what AI does. It tells you what you want to hear. So
it hallucinated an
crazy,
answer.
It gave him a plan, and it just went off the rails. They called it
I'm going to bet you if you ask him if he can manifest things in his life, he'd probably say yes. Because this man was definitely trying to manifest the answer to his problem.
Project X, a shadow task force that was there to either negotiate down the bonus or execute a full takeover of Unknown Worlds, collect evidence, and also isolate the developers from the public. This plan included communication strategies to build around fan trust, which explains why they had all the things about how this is all for the players in their announcement. It was also about securing publishing rights for Subnautica 2 and also preparing a legal defense. Over the following month, Crafton followed most of it. Please tell me that you guys have seen the Eddie Burback video where he listens to ChatGPT long enough.
Oh yeah,
that
I've seen that video.
Living in a hotel room. And
all right, if you ever want to watch a funny video, this video was hilarious. Like, any amount of pushback, at least on this version of ChatGPT, which they got better at, allegedly. But if you said anything to it that said, I don't know if I believe that, ChatGPT is like, you're right. How could I have not seen that?
Bakersfield, California, lined in tinfoil and eating baby food to connect with his genius baby self.
I'm not going to lie, this plan and it being named Project X sounds like it's from a Korean or Chinese drama. Dude, it sounds like it's from a Saturday morning cartoon.
Because ChatGPT convinced itself that he was the smartest
like
baby
not even
of all
like
time
an anime, just an American cartoon that was made in the 70s
or something like that. That's effectively what this CEO did. It just matched his crazy.
Yep.
Now, remember when I said that these CEOs have no idea what they're doing? I did not envision this. This is something beyond my foresight.
No, these people don't know what they're doing. They, like I said, they only know how to extract value that other people made. I'm gonna grab a blanket. It's cold in here. It's so cold in my room. I hate it. Please warm up. Finally. The sun is shining and it's below freezing. I got a blanket. I don't normally have to do it, but I've been noticed that my feet start to freeze after a little bit of sitting here in my room. Sorry about that.
But regardless of the absurdity of this case, this was a publisher that had no intent whatsoever on delivering on their own promises. And they would go to such extremes that they would sacrifice the studio, they'd sacrifice the reputation of its developer.
Again, if only we could have learned from the last 17 times they've done this. Wow. Wouldn't that be unique?
Of its founders, hell, they'd even sacrifice the game, which also goes to show how inept the leadership is, because we're talking about Subnautica 2.
No, they are not inept. They've been doing this for years. There is no ineptitude here. This was a plan. Now, they fucked with the wrong game, finally, but this was the plan. And they just messed it up, because these people are scam agencies.
if this game is just more Subnautica, given the fact that indie games have been running a train on the games industry for the
Yep.
past couple of years. Your trailer had 7.4 million views. You're cutting off your leg to save your foot. $250 million is a drop in the bucket compared to what this game is going to make.
Yep.
How do these guys have jobs? I don't get it.
They don't have a
I don't
job.
think he's probably going to be having a
Their
job
job is to be a scam artist.
with you. But not every single publisher is going to be out here trying to use ChatGPT to execute Order 66 on its developers. But I think it's really important to take notice of. You cannot
only the ones
trust
like
these
Krafton.
people. They do not have the same incentives of the people that are working at the studios. They do not care about the work you do. They care about what your work earns. And they will sacrifice.
Again, I'm going to beleaguer this to death. It's not about what it earns. It is about the value they can extract from you. That is the end all be all, and that is all they care about. They do not care about anything other than the fact that they are the vultures, you are the corpse, and they will fly away after all of the meat is off the bones.
Everything before it touches them, before it touches the CEO's job, anything else. The studio is just collateral damage. And
the game, and the people.
I think the most important lesson
and the
here
players
isn't what Krafton did. It's actually the fact that Unknown Worlds went to them looking for something that you cannot find in this industry because it doesn't exist.
Yep.
Security.
I mean, I don't blame
That's not a Krafton problem. That's just the game's industry issue.
I don't blame Unknown Worlds because, like I said, if you haven't, and it'd be rare for you to have interacted with Krafton in such a way that you can see the obvious scam for what it is, mostly because, like I said, it happens to dying games, and when a game is dying, people aren't generally playing it, so to speak. I mean, they might have their player base, but being a game developer, you might not have interacted with Krafton before, and their promises seem good on the offset, and a lot of people lack the discerning to say this seems too good to be true. Because, you know, people want to be optimistic, and that's fine. Sometimes you need to have a pessimism bias. It's just true. Sometimes you need to have a pessimism bias, because not everything is optimistic.
None of these games can offer you any security. The only thing that you have that offers you any is your own talent. And that's something that they had. But when you go and you sell that to somebody else, it stops being yours.
Mm-hmm.
I recently watched the entire podcast between Lex Friedman and Jeff Kaplan, formerly of Blizzard, and in it, he had this section where he was talking
I heard
about
that was a
why
banger
he left
too.
Blizzard, saying that the company had changed, that the incentives had changed once corporate leadership had showed up. And in it, he issued this warning to developers.
I think there's a message to creative people out there and people who make stuff. We're so focused on the love of the craft that we get lost in it and we love doing it. And we're not cutthroat.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have that kind of ambition. We have a different kind of ambition.
Yep.
But there's this whole world, especially as soon as you're lucky enough to have success, that are very cutthroat and very ambitious. And for whatever reason, we keep giving ourselves to them. And we need to stop giving ourselves. World
It was
of
exactly
Warcraft,
why you thought
when
Papa
we made
Jeff
it,
left.
there was no
Mhm.
CFO at Blizzard. You don't need a CFO to make World of Warcraft. You need artists, engineers, designers, producers, and an audio team. I wish developers would understand their
Like, I don't know how much longer this is gonna go, so I'm gonna make sure that I can get my comment out there before I forget it. But if you're a creative person, you have to realize that you are, at least from my experience, and this is anecdotal, a lot more easier to take advantage of. Because as far as I am aware, a lot of creative people are fairly optimistic about other people and they want to believe in the best of other people, which is a good quality. You should never lose that quality. But there are a lot of people out there who can see that. They recognize that as a pattern and they go, I can take advantage of this person. They might not even consciously think that they can take advantage of you. Like, if I'm going to be completely unbiased and want to take we'll take a step back from the Krafton situation. The CEO and the leadership of Krafton might not have been consciously thinking, we can take advantage of you. They might have just unconsciously been like, oh, this might be a good fit for our studio. And in the back of their minds, their studio, as they know, runs things into the ground. They might not have consciously thought about it, but they probably unconsciously took advantage of them. And that just happens. That's why creative people need to, at least in my opinion, and again, in my experience, should learn a learned pessimism. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. People are going to take advantage of you. That's how people operate. And that's been a lesson in my life that I've had to learn. Like, I can't just trust people on their face. You shouldn't just trust people on their face. Sometimes you can. There's some elasticity there. You know, if it's not going to harm you in the if it's not going to harm you in the abstract, then it's, or in a meaningful way rather, then it's like whatever. But in big operations where there's a lot of money being tossed around and a lot of promises that seem too good to be true being made, you need to be treating them like they're going to run off with it the next day. You need to really do your homework and do your due diligence, because they exist and they'll never not exist.
Own value more and stop handing the golden goose to people who don't deserve it.
He's right. He's emphatically and overwhelmingly right, speaking this truth from the top of the industry. The troubles for game developers, the troubles for players only start when these creators hand themselves over and their talent over to somebody else simply because they just want to get lost in the craft or because they are seeking security.
Yep.
And I get it, man. I really do. Well, I can wholeheartedly respect those that want to get lost in the sauce when it comes to making their own games, and I understand why they want that.
Well, they should be able to do that because that's what they're good at. But we don't live in a perfect world, which is unfortunate.
The minute that you hand over that control to somebody else whose
It's gone.
only purpose is to make more money,
It's not yours
and
anymore.
to optimize the business, what you want, what you create, how you want to be perceived, all of that comes last in the face of these companies and their financial futures.
Well, it ceases to be yours anymore. Like, it's not yours. As soon as you give over the quote business end quote control of whatever you're doing, it's not yours. You're always going to be outvoted. You're always going to be told that you can't do it because that doesn't make money. And unfortunately, they're both right and wrong, because there are industry trends for a reason. People want to do what is going to be making you money. They want stability. They trend towards that. And you lose all of the unique aspects that also become a selling point of a lot of games in that translation. So the best option is to do it yourself. And if you can't do it yourself, you really have to be discerning about who you allow to be your business partner. Because once you do, they own it. You don't anymore.
Last in the face of the company's investors, and in the case of Unknown Worlds, last in the face of the CEO's job.
Which, by the way,
the context for that clip that
the producer of Manor Lords, Hooded Horse, just recently was talking about this. I don't know if this was the impetus for it, but it might have been, because this happened. I just came across my desk not too long ago. I don't know if we're going to be talking about it today, but we might. But they basically came out and said that all what are they, production companies? All companies that produce indie games that are not part of actually making them, about 90% of them are scams, and that you should never get a publisher. And, you know, obviously they have some skin in the game because they are a publisher. But I tend to agree with that, because the Hooded Horse games that I play seem very unique, very good, and not really like forcing you to do something. But all other publishers like force games out the door. They have deadlines. They got to come out at this time. It's why it's a hard knock life for an indie developer sometimes.
I showed was Jeff Kaplan talking about how Blizzard CFO at the time told him that Overwatch 2, after it launched, that game needed to hit a very specific revenue number every single month, and then it needed to exceed that the following year and the following year, or they would lay off 1,000 people. They were essentially just holding this guy at gunpoint, and they told him that if he didn't achieve that, he would be the one to blame. That's how these people operate. That's how their brains are wired. I reposted this clip with my own thoughts saying that publicly traded companies, publicly traded game companies, are the scum of the games industry. And somebody replied to me saying, how dare a company that waited decades and spent billions on a project expect a return? Fuck them, right?
Okay. They should expect a return, but they shouldn't expect it to make the same return every year. Imagine how stupidly naive you have to be in order to make that comment.
Which honestly doesn't make any sense because Blizzard did not spend decades or billions of dollars
No,
on
they
Overwatch
spent like
2,
maybe half
but
a decade.
I said back, expecting a return isn't the problem. It's how that return is expected to be achieved. Just ask yourself, how can this game make $40 million this month? None of the answers that you're going to get have anything to do with game design.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're giving yourself over to in the pursuit of stability, of staying in your lane, of letting somebody else handle the business. The incentive shift, the direction shifts, and the game goes.
Also, if you're expecting a return on a $450 million investment, we'll just put that number on the wall. I don't know how much it took Overwatch to be made, but definitely over 100 million, definitely under 500 million, somewhere around there. If you're expecting to get a return on that much money, might I suggest you have spent and invested too much money into a game in order to do that? I don't think you're ever going to be able to like recoup a cost that astronomical in today's gaming market. And if you are able to do it, it's because you made a fucking good game. Not too many people are capable of making a fucking good game.
Along with them. There is no version of this where you get to have your cake and eat it too. And every developer that is considering this path of letting these people take over, they need to understand what they're trading away.
Your soul.
These publishers and executives are not creators. They are operators. They show up after somebody else has built something worth caring about, and then they install themselves between the people that are making the game and the people that are playing it. They influence this industry far more than they ever contribute to it. Every single decision is coming down from a layer that has nothing to do with whether or not these games are good. It's about whether this game is performing financially. And that's how you get developers who didn't want a battle pass now sitting in a meeting talking about a battle pass. That's how you get,
I made this cool thing. It's really awesome and I like it. The business person, but can it make money? I hate those
a live
types of
service
people.
pivot in a game that doesn't make any sense. It was never even built to
How
be
can
that
I
in the first
monetize
place.
this?
Not because this team thought it was a good idea, but because somebody else with a revenue target needed it to be. And beyond that, and I think this is one of the most important points to make, is that this idea that acquisition is somehow going to offer these guys security, it's nothing more than an illusion that's being sold to them by people that want to control them. Every single publisher and major studio in the industry today started out no different than Unknown Worlds. The difference between those who thrived and those who didn't isn't luck, it's just who they let in the door. Larian Studios nearly went bankrupt twice. They took on outside work to be able to survive, and they didn't even find any solid ground until Divinity Original Sin, and even then, that was never guaranteed. Nothing ever is. This is a creative industry. Some things bomb, some things land. The only thing a studio can ever truly rely on is their own reputation and their own talent. And when you sell that reputation, when you sell that talent to somebody else, you're not buying security. All it's doing is just buying you more questions, more hands in your...
No, they're cheating your reputation in order to make money off of you.
Pockets, and someone else that is calling the shots on your own life. I think there's something else to that kind of goes even further beyond it, that I don't actually even believe that there should be a sense of security within the games industry or within any creative industry for that matter. I think that passion thrives within that quiet desperation in the games industry.
I don't know if I completely agree with that, in the sense that maybe I'm misinterpreting his idea of stability, but I think that there should be some types of companies out there, like Hooded Horse, I think is a good example, where they do provide that stability to indie games, and they don't drop indie games if they initially flop. They, at least as far as I am aware, will continue to support that indie game or game that they're publishing until either it is undeniable that this is no longer financially viable, or they become a success story. At least that's what I've heard about Hooded Horse. So I think that there's room for that. And I think that's good because that allows people to recognize their full vision for something. That vision might be flawed. That vision might also need to be more elastic than it is, but at least getting to the point where you can recognize the full extent of it, I think is important. And I think that might be what is it being discussed here, but that's my interpretation of it.
Where
And I
every
think that would be an
decision
affirmative
at a
good, but we just
developer
don't live
level
in that
is
anymore,
pass
or
or
right now.
fail. There is no guardrails. You're always walking the razor's edge. I
Mhm.
think that it makes you want it more. It makes you dig deeper. It makes you make better games.
Sometimes.
Is it stressful? Absolutely. Does it rack you with anxiety? I'm
Sometimes you
sure
need to
it
wait
does.
for the
I'm gonna tell
market
you
to
right
see that
now,
it
when
wants it
I'm
too.
making videos, I'm watching the analytics, and when things up or down and I read comments and things like that, anything changes, I'm freaking out. I'm having an existential crisis. Why? It has nothing to do with the money. It has everything to do with just the obsession over enjoying what I do and loving the craft. I want to make more videos. I want to get better at making videos. And I feel like walking that line keeps you in check. That pressure keeps you in check. I would imagine that's the exact same thing for the games industry. While what we do is completely different.
Maybe.
It's still
I don't know.
creative in some
Could
way,
be.
I guess. This whole situation with Unknown Worlds reminds me a lot of Schedule One in a lot of ways, where the publisher of Drug Dealer Simulator went rogue and tried to issue a takedown and an investigation into Schedule One for something that you can't even copyright to begin with.
Did they do that?
And the developers didn't want to have anything to do with it. They had no idea that the publisher went out and did this.
Hang on. I gotta see what happened with Schedule One's publisher now, so I'm informed. What did Schedule One's publisher do? Launched an investigation one for alleged intellectual property infringement on April 2025. They cited similarities of gameplay UI, but not file a formal lawsuit. The investigation sparked backlash. So they were just investigating the UI because it looked similar to something else. Because they stating they did not feel robbed and would not have pursued legal action. Dispute between developers and their publishing label due to fiduciary duties despite the creative team's disapproval. Okay, so it's just a bunch of bullshit. Got it. That's all I need to know. Boom.
And it ruined their reputation because of it. The publisher came out and said, well, we have to do this. It's for our investor interest. They totally torched that studio's reputation as collateral and then just walked away from them. That's how this works. I really hope with a lot of these self-published successes that we've seen over the past couple of years that more of these guys realize that that's probably the best path.
That is the only
path for them to be able to take.
It's the only
I know
path.
that it's incredibly difficult for some of these guys to do it, but there's so many
incredibly
more tools
difficult
that are out there, and social media has just kind of been doing its whole thing lately. If you make something that's good enough,
people will
are
advertise
find
it.
People are going to play it, and then it's just going to be everywhere.
Yep.
That just keeps getting proved over and over again. I know that people say, oh, well, 8,000 indie games die on the pyre every year. Most of them don't even make their money back for publishing the game on Steam.
So right now, total unaffiliated plug. There is this site called Fake Portal. It's just fakeportal.com. It is a repository of indie games that you can go check out. It will tell you where to buy them and how to acquire them. I believe it goes through all the indie game sites and all the indie games that you can go, and you can search for what you want. Like I said, not sponsored plug. I'm plugging it because I want to. And if you want to check out indie games, that would be a good place to go. All right, where are we at? Hey, come on. Kaboom. Definitely worth a check out.
Those games suck. They're not good enough. You did not achieve the right level of success because you did not achieve the right level of game. That's how that works. Jeff Kaplan was talking about it on the podcast, and he had said, for whatever reasons, these developers hand themselves over to these people, to these executives, to these managers.
They do.
And he says that it always happens right when you find success. Keep in mind, the reason why that happens is because they are coming to you.
Because they want to extract your value.
That's all they're interested in.
Yep.
Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I definitely enjoyed making this one. This is some really interesting stuff to get into. This is a really cool story to talk about. I hope that a lot of people end up taking a look at this and sharing it and making everybody know what happened with this, because this is just a...
Well, like I said, it's not even that it's interesting in the sense that, you know, it happened. It's more interesting, at least to me, in the sense that we continue to allow it to happen. And I am surprised that it is legal to do.
Wild story to begin with. But thank you guys for watching.
But I don't know what type of law I'd make in order to stop it.
Share the video with your friends. Share it on social media. Grow my influence. Grow my power. The social media stuff really helps.
Hell yeah.
YouTube loves it when they see that they're getting other websites traffic. So then they boost the video even harder.
Imagine how that
exactly
works.
What you want. But that's all I got. So follow me on Twitch. Follow me on Twitter. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay cool. Stay righteous. Stay safe. I'm going to go play some Crimson Desert.
Hell yeah. Peace out, brother. Huge families. Oh, why is it? What happened? It's frozen. Oh no. We're frozen. Oh! Have we crashed? I think this has crashed. Oh, there we go. That was weird. Thank you, Opera. So in my watch history, this video, we're gonna go on to Bellular. In my watch history of this game, this said that it was already watched. So if it's an already watched, we're gonna skip to the next one. But I didn't see it on the VOD. Actually, you know what? I think we might have we already watched this, didn't we? Right? Hold up. I don't think so. I don't remember the graphs. Talking about the escapist there, it looks like. You know what? If I'm like, hey, this seems really familiar, we're going to go ahead and move it to another. We're going to go ahead and move to another video. But until then, let's see about dead internet theory.
The good news is that we've won. The bad news is we've actually still lost. So here's the story. Google just killed those sites that were kind of propping up the whole dead internet theory. It's that story that we covered recently about the fake review of Resi Requiem from a fake reviewer. And it all happened because Video Gamer, The Escapist, and
Yeah, if you didn't hear about that, that was insane, by the way. There was a guy who apparently was just complete fabricated. He was just a fabricated guy who was giving RE, whatever the new Resident Evil game was, not a great review.
Sports Insider were in fact a bunch of bots pumping out some capital C content until, well, the owners of all of this, Clickout Media, got caught. And now their sites have been scrubbed from Google searches.
Wow, thank you. It only took us, what, like 5 years?
Which is
more like
huge
2 or
punishment
3.
for management who thought they could game the rules of the internet. But there's just one little problem with all of this. It's kind of all Google's fault in the first place.
Yeah, because they have no quality
in
control.
the long run, I actually think we're in quite a bit of trouble. I'll begin with what Clickout Media have just done, which is, I guess...
Yeah, we're in quite a bit of trouble because they got rid of the ones that they caught. What are going to happen what are going to happen now? They're only going to get better, and they're not going to get caught.
Click out of this whole thing. They seem to be a little bit afraid. Now remember, what they were doing is basically getting a bunch of bots to make a bunch of articles, but they were posting them under fake people. People with fake profile
AI picture, by the way. Huge AI picture.
Pictures, fake X accounts, that kind of thing. Now,
actually, let's see.
People with
Brian Marigold, an experienced iGaming and sports betting analyst. That's a weird combo. With a deep appreciation for the innovation shaping modern gambling entertainment. Already perfect. I really want to listen to this guy's opinion about video games. Go shove it. He combines industry knowledge with an analytical eye for emerging technologies such as, not limited to, blockchain casinos, I'm sorry, I gotta take a break after I just said that. I almost threw up a little bit in my mouth. Provably fair gaming. What does that even fucking mean? And AI-driven odds modeling. This is just word soup at this point. His work helps readers understand key topics like volatility, gamification, and casino design, and the evolution of modern betting strategies while always keeping the player experience at the center. Wow. That was a sentence that can be said. From immersive open-world adventures to high-stakes competitive titles, he draws on broad understanding of what makes games engaging and rewarding. Whether analyzing the psychology behind slot play, exploring sportsbook innovations, or charting new directions in hybrid casino platforms, Brian writes with clarity, insight, and genuine enthusiasm for interactive entertainment. If this guy were real, I don't think I'd be able to control myself around him. I'd be just, I think I would just start vomiting profusely in his direction, and I would try to just cover him with as much as I could until he finally leaves.
Fake profile pictures, fake X accounts, that kind of thing. Now, the media attention around specifically
Lifelong gamer, passionate
reviewer
writer
Brian Marigold has obviously spooked them. That's because there have been 0 new articles up in Video Gamer since the Resident Evil Requiem review.
Yeah, because they're probably
viral.
all
And the
fucking
cleanup
fake. See, it's
job
right
they're-
here. Resident Evil Requiem reveal, Capcom's gore-soaked series finale. Brian Marigold, February 25th, 2026. Brian Marigold, God of War, Sons of Sparta review, a blood-soaked return to Greece. Last update. That reads like a ChatGPT paragraph. Listen, it does read like a ChatGPT paragraph, but most people aren't going to be able to see that because that's a little too much to read. Actually, I was going to do this later, but this is a perfect time to mention it. I had this saved for something. I want to read this. This is from the National Literacy Institute of the United States. 79% of adults nationwide are literate in 2024. However, go down 2 points. 54% of adults have a literacy below 6th grade level. Do you expect a 6th grader to be able to pick out what a ChatGPT article is? No. Flip a fucking coin and somebody's not going to be able to understand that that's a ChatGPT ass paragraph. I know. What a fucking world we live in today. Any fucking whoosies. That's not where I want. Any fucking whoosies. The fact that these are allowed to exist. I'm a Shooter Orson, totally a fucking fake person. They have to be a fucking fake person. This all has to be fake as fuck. And even if it reads like it, because most people aren't going to read it. They're not even going to look at it. They're going to be like, oh, that's a lot of words. I ain't going to read that.
They're doing really is not subtle. They've actually pulled every mention of gambling in casinos from the
Also, by the way, the fact that they were mentioning gambling, make sure the article mentions gambling and casino technologies 6 times.
site. And of course, if you were, well...
The education system has failed America. Why do you think I'm so much of a proponent of gutting the Department of Education? Because it doesn't fucking work, and it hasn't fucking worked since the 70s. Just plain and simple. It hasn't. We need to completely gut it and redo it. Imagine how that works.
Reading this site back in the day, you may be a bit confused.
I'm getting heated. I'm actually getting heated about this because it is there is a confluence of issues that are extremely fixable if people were willing to take the steps necessary to fix it.
Why are video games
And I hate
writing...
and I hate what ChatGPT has done to writing industries. Like, the fact that people rely on it so heavily, to me, is incredibly frightening. Because we are witnessing in real time the death of critical thinking. Because if you can't write, if you can't formulate your thought processes in a coherent sentence, in a coherent beginning to end meaningful statement, you can no longer critically think. It is the outsourcing of critical thinking that actually has me incredibly afraid. And that's why I have such like a visceral reaction to it, because I actually am frightened about, I don't want to live in that world. I can't live in that world. I just couldn't do it.
Casino game articles. The answer is pretty obvious. ClickOut acquired the company and really just wanted that affiliate and
UK-based The Escapist, Video Gamer, and Esports Insider were taken over by SEO agencies. Oh, I see where we're at here. The agency just wants to be able to make more money off of people clicking. This is the second video today where everything just comes back to money. I like money.
Revenue. And if we stop by the profile of our favorite real man, Brian Marigold, we see that it has even got a line scrubbed. There was one calling him an experienced iGaming and sports betting analyst. That is no longer there. Now,
Well, he should no longer be there.
the actual articles on betting and casino games are still there, but they've just been de-emphasized.
By the way, I really hate all of the gambling stuff that's been coming into gaming. That's like a complete side issue, but I hate it. Also, what is this title? I played Clover Pit. It was really good. Clover Pit is a revolting love child of Inscription and Bellatra that has you gambling for your very life. By Tom Bardwell, absolutely real person, most likely. That's sarcasm. I don't know. It looks awful. It looks like it's probably a dumb
And this
review.
isn't just in Video Gamer, it's across ClickOut Media
Well, it's
sites, which
ChatGPT,
does
so
include The Escapist and Esports Insider.
that is a
reason for all
shame.
of
That's a crying shame because The Escape is actually used to be decent.
This is Google cut them off pretty hard. Are
Good.
you Hacker Man? Do you want to be
No.
Hacker Man? Well, the good news is
No.
today's sponsor, Try Hack Me, lets
I
you
know a
learn how
Hacker
to
Man.
hack legally. You see, they are a hands-on cybersecurity
And I know it's
training
nothing
platform
like the
with over
movies.
6.5 million users, and it's genuinely cool how they do things. Now, obviously, we cover data breaches quite a lot on this channel. Insomniac, Rockstar, Snowflake. There's new breaches every week, and cybersecurity has nearly 5 million unfilled jobs worldwide.
And by the way,
There literally
I know
aren't
a
enough
hacker
people
man.
who
What I'm
know
saying
how
is I
to
know somebody
defend
who
the
probably
systems
could
we
do
all
it if they
rely
wanted
on.
to, but
Try Hack Me is how you can become one of
they
them.
don't,
You see,
because
with them,
they don't wanna.
You are hacking real virtual machines
they're already
directly in your
working.
browser pretty much from minute one. There's no setup or expensive hardware or stuff. You can just go straight in and start learning. And it's gamified with a structured roadmap that takes you from zero to job ready, over 1,100 rooms with new content being added weekly. And they offer
That could be
professional
interesting.
certifications, by the way, ones that are entirely hands-on. As an example, their SAL1 was built with Accenture and Fortune 500 companies. And in a world where you want to stand out,
You know,
for other
maybe that would be a
applicants,
good
well,
stream
proof
idea.
like that actually does matter.
I'm gonna write that
and
down.
The great thing is, you can literally get started for free right now. Loads of their rooms
Stream
cost
idea.
absolutely nothing. But Premium unlocks
Try
everything.
out
All learning
boot
paths, faster machines,
dev
full cert prep.
and
If you want
try
to get started,
out
just go to tryhackme.com/Bellular News and use code Bellular25 for 25%
We're gonna actually
off
give-
the annual plan. You can check out.
We're gonna
link down
give
in the
these
description.
whatever
And if you
gamified
become
stuff.
the epic hacker, do let me know.
Whatchamacallit,
'cause I think
a run
that's
for their
pretty
money
much
to
one
see
of the
how
coolest
what they're
jobs
like.
there
That
is.
could be
So if
interesting.
you go and try to find video
Gamified penetration testing, just what we need in the cybersecurity industry. I mean, you know, cybersecurity is basically a game, right? Playing games with your security.
gamer, the
Oh my
Escapist,
God.
or Esports Insider, and Google.
Okay. I have another tangent. I know we're going off on tangents today. Today's tangent the stream. I am so tired of hearing corporations talk about how they have to, quote, gamify, close quote, the workplace environment. Because this is being said by absolute, oh, I almost said a gamer word. These are made by absolute dumb people that have no idea what a video game is, what a video game mechanic or a system is, and how to implement it at all effectively, reasonably, or good. Especially because game systems are really only meant for entertainment, and trying to make your work entertainment is a fool's errand. Well, that's not entirely true, but I'm going to assume that they're looking at it in the same measure, the same framework. The next time you hear somebody say we have to gamify this, laugh them out of the room. Get them out of there. Just point, there's a door's right there. Get out of here. It's never going to happen. It's a fool's errand, and it's stupid. Doesn't work.
Good luck. That's because Google has actually de-indexed them. And that's
Good.
why ClickOut are now trying to pivot away from all the BS that they had done. And basically, in this industry, if you're not on Google, you are effectively dead. Now, the sites
True.
still exist. You can go to them. Their archives haven't gone anywhere. They just don't show up in Google.
Google finally took a bad website, a scam website out back, and boom. Thank you,
Other
Google.
search engines do still promote them, but let's be honest, no one watching this video is a happy and willing user of Bing. And this is the exact thing
True.
that Brian Marigold was concocted to prevent.
The last time I used Bing, I think it was like 4 years before COVID, never looked back.
That's because Brian Marigold was an attempt
And that was
to
by
fool
accident,
Google
most likely.
systems, which do exist to discover and, to find low-value content so that stuff can be nuked out of searches. Of course, it looks for mass bot-generated content, so they thought they could just make a fake dude to sneak past it. That obviously failed. But the thing is, Google doesn't actually ban AI-generated content.
The way that I look at this is, if they catch one person who's a fake dude making fake content, essentially, there are at least 10 to 15 more behind that have not been caught. Because they're just close enough to being real that the system either A, can't detect them, or people haven't reported them. So again, as I said in the last video that we watched, you need to have a learned pessimism bias when it comes to everything on the internet. We can all laugh about how we said, oh yeah, the internet's not real, everything on the internet's fake, haha. Well, we're slowly getting to the point where that's not going to be hyperbole anymore. That is going to be reality.
It's rather that if you're using it to game their systems, then they will punish you. And while this is mostly about the written word, this kind of thing is actually rolled out across YouTube. Google just finally started asking audiences to identify low-quality AI videos.
Is that actually real? Did they actually word it? Do you feel like this is AI slop? Big W forever
so
wrote that.
They can be de-emphasized
Yes.
or basically stripped from the platform. Shorts, kids content, and just low
I guess
effort
outsourcing it is
replications of
the only way to
existing
do it.
content all fit this bill. And this follows killing off several channels behind the likes of, say, those, I gotta say they're hateful, fake movie trailers that could go surprisingly viral. But they recently went a step
It's good only insofar as it's not clearly a joke, by the way. If it's clearly a joke, like there was a while ago, the Pixar ones that were floating around YouTube where it was like, Pixar presents this whatever esoterically terrible in concept movie, but hilarious because it was clearly meant to be a joke. I'm not okay with that because it's clearly a joke, sure. And like I said, I'm not a Luddite. Using AI for that could be really funny. But if you're passing it off as something that's completely real, yeah, we should probably get rid of that. Without the YouTube speak, they haven't actually taken anything down. They've just removed them from the indexing system in the search engine. Well, that's effectively taking it down, though. Like, if we're going to be completely real about what that actually means, is if people can't index it and search it on the first page of Google, then it's effectively been killed. Because they might not be able to actually take it down just in general. Indexing is a system by which, I'm familiar what indexing is as like as the system and how it organizes it based on, keyword searches and what have you. But again, if you're not showing up on the first page of Google, which by the way, some people can pay to be on or you can pay to be on the first page of Google, which I don't know if I agree with or disagree with, because I think that might be a little bit too much of a monopolistic practice. However, if you can't search it and get it via an index, then it might as well not exist to 90% of people. I mean, even me, because, back in the day, I used to go to like multiple different pages of Google when Google was new. I don't think I've gone to the second page of Google in the last decade, maybe decade and a half. So I think that just unindexing it is enough. Sure, there might be still some people out there with the link. Those people are going to be in a minority.
Beyond that, you see, a November 2025 report from Capwing led to many of the biggest AI-only channels getting...
Oh, and I will say that outsourcing whether or not something is AI slop or being identified as AI slop or not real is probably a good idea. Although I don't know if there's going to be any excised externalities to that, in the sense that maybe somebody just doesn't like somebody, or maybe, there's a company that doesn't like another company and then starts mass reporting them for being AI slop. I could very easily see that being abused. So I'd like to know what type of checks they have in place in order to stop like a mass reporting campaign or some type, I guess I would call it corporate espionage campaign to take somebody else down or take something else down. So I'm wondering how that works.
As well, and that's in spite of them having millions of subscribers.
Again, perfect
so
world,
clearly,
it would
Google
work.
Does
we don't live in a
not
perfect
want
world.
You to game their systems unless you're the spiffing Brit, and it's sort of a big old joke to have some fun. Back to the story though.
Spiffing Brit mentioned. Hell yeah, brother.
ClickOut is a company being.
By the way, Munstry, he is a national treasure. Make sure you keep that man in good standing.
Punished for gaming Google systems with no plan to actually serve audiences anything good. Now,
honestly, I'm an American. What do I know? He has been, in my opinion, a stalwart person on the stage exporting British culture and contributing to it. I think he should be knighted. I know. Who knows? I'm just saying. I'd put his name down.
The good thing here is there's a bit of schadenfreude for us, right? We can enjoy that these are bad actors and that they have been punished by the system.
Though I've never had Yorkshire Gold. I guess that's fair.
There's an underlying problem, and that is the system Google built keeps changing, and it keeps punishing anyone who tries to work within it. Back in 2023, Google released their AI overviews. Those are the summaries that now sit at the top of just about every search.
By the way, I think that this is a good thing, only in the sense that it can collect a bunch of like text information and spit it back out at you, although I don't think you should ever trust it. It's good for queries at a glance, but do not outsource your critical thinking to an AI overview. You need to do, like, if you want to actually have a critical opinion about things, read other sources and read counter sources to it in order to discern where your opinion truly lies.
And this fundamentally changed how the internet
I guess
worked.
like to be a little bit more clear about it, you shouldn't be taking whatever the AI overview says as immediately what it is. Again, I know you should say that you should never trust it. I think that there are things that you can trust it on to give you like a factual thing. Like if you wanted to ask it, when was the Declaration of Independence signed? It'll definitely give you the right answer. You can trust what that answer is. But if you're asking it for an opinion, like what is this thing? Like should I like this? Nuh-uh. You should never trust it. I Googled specific things about my niche knowledges and gets everything wrong. That's fair. It might not have a big pool of things to pull from for niche interests. But like I said, what I'm trying to say is it's only going to get better. And asking it about something that could be discernibly factual is at least okay, in my opinion.
For millions of people. And here's what it did to Retro Dodo. They are an independent...
Like I said, I am like totally not a Luddite on this. It's only going to get better. This is the worst that it will ever be. And whatever you want to think about AI, you can think about it however, you can have whatever opinion that you want. It's just going to get better. I think, though, people depend on it way too much. And I think that a lot of antipathy comes from that. Niche in the way of microphone independencies and electrical systems. Yeah, I could definitely see why it would probably, mess something. It might not even have the best grasp of that either. But that would be one thing where you would have to do a lot more independent research on it. At least that would fall under it, in my opinion, because as soon as it starts telling you how things work, it gets a little... Yeah. I don't know like how it pulls from that stuff, but once you start getting super specific, you definitely need to do your own research. But yeah, like I said, I was just talking about general things.
Retro game site. So yes, it's a niche interest, but it was good content.
And of course, like I said,
they had a stable bit.
Not to keep beleaguering it, but it's always to a point. There is a point at which you no longer can trust it, and you have to be the judge of where that point is. But that point is, like I said, if it's not general, it's probably wrong.
business, enough to actually build a team of 4 people over several years, delivering human-written, authoritative information to their readers. That's fantastic, and it's the exact sort of content that Google says they support. But take a look at this graph. This graph shows what happened to the organic traffic via Google after the update. And we see an 85% loss over 6 via Google.
All right, so they updated because they're trying to make money, and it crashed. It's not a good graph. How'd that happen?
After
Alphabet,
the
could you
update,
please answer?
we see an 85%
Can somebody ask Grok why that happened?
loss over 6 months. Now, RetroDodo did not change anything in their
Sorry, I had
output.
to.
Just Google changed how people could access that output. The AI-powered search summary essentially meant that users did not have to click through onto their site. That stripped them of potential ad revenue.
I see what's happening here. I didn't think about that as an externality where they're pulling stuff from places that kind of depend on the traffic, and it's pulling away traffic from that. Okay, this might actually be enough for me to say there might actually be an externality being caused from it that now puts me strongly in the camp of maybe the AI overview might not be the best. But if Google does fix that and, say the AI overview credits something and then maybe gives them some type of traffic, that would be good. But I don't know. That's an interesting problem. I didn't even see it in this term.
Which is, a little bit of a problem. Because humans have got to get paid to do work. Right? Now, it started to get worse because Google began prioritizing high-profile partners like Reddit, who pay for sponsored
There's a lot of websites, like I said, that pay to get on first page of Google
placement over the independent outlets. And all of this stuff comes together to change how people use the internet.
All right. Oh, wait. Best DS games. Wait a minute. Let's see what we got here.
And all.
Okay, so we got Game Rant, RotoDodo, Reddit, RetroDodo again. And now we just have our AI overview right here. Games Radar, Reddit. This is what people see. Man.
All of this stuff comes together to change how people use the internet. Those AI overviews alone, it doesn't matter how often they get things wrong.
Anybody else realize that Lumen right here is the same name of the company from Severance? That's a little almost on the nose with how funny that is.
They are just reason enough. The fact that they exist and they're the default thing, that's enough for the vast majority of people to never click onto a site. And we've seen this sort of thing in YouTube as well. I mean, Google might kill off channels that are popular but make the place look untidy, right? They might do that stuff.
Oh, they 100% would.
But they'll also, at the same time, roll out loads of generative AI tools for users to make videos with. So, on the one hand, they are trying to police the slop factory, but on the other hand, they're quite literally building the slop factory.
I'm going to be honest. If they make a crap ton of money off of something that's AI that people generally are okay with, like flip a coin and then somebody will be upset, flip another coin and somebody will be okay if it's like a true 50-50, they're not going to care. Like, I think that they probably won't even care if it's 70-30. 70% of people don't like it. 30% of people do. If that 30% of them is generating a crap ton of money, they're going to tell you to go get bent.
That's if they're not using machine learning to summarize videos, just like they've done with regular search, or using automated strikes to take down channels with no human review. You see,
this one's huge. This really got me fucked up, by the way. When an AI is reviewing your content and it says, oh, yeah, we're just going to ban you without somebody human reviewing it. Like, I get it. I think it's literally like billions of hours of video is like uploaded to YouTube over a small amount of time, and getting somebody to sit there and watch, or getting a group of somebody to sit there and watch all of the, content uploaded to YouTube is probably a hassle. But I think you can probably do it for the large channels in an unbiased way that are going to be the one that have the most excised reports, right? But I don't know. Yeah, I'm not part of Alphabet. But relying on AI to do it is so scummy.
Creators build up value.
So bad.
Google absorbs that value. But the process of Google absorbing that value may just kill the creators. And Google really does not seem to notice when those creators are gone. There's other things as well. I mean, if you go to YouTube on a desktop computer and you look at the homepage, you'll see 3 humongously scaled long-form videos and then a whole big horizontal shelf.
So I, for some reason on my other YouTube, I get like 6 of them together. I don't know why it does that, but I guess I've curated my Google to actually be, or sorry, curated my algorithm to actually be good. So thank God for that. But I hate how, honestly, I hate how they push shorts. I don't like shorts. That's just me. I know I've made some shorts and some things are good for short form content. I don't know. It's just, they're all, doing shorts is like a hassle.
Loaded up with shorts.
Not
So
to give you any,
long-form
not to give you any like, you know, woes of whatever, but I just don't like them. I could have lived my entire life without them and have been fine.
Creator, well, it certainly seems that Google is not interested, or at least less interested. Or it could be that one part of Google is interested, but another one wants to optimize the homepage for session time, and they've just found out that in a short-term basis, shorts are better for that. Let's not think about any long-term consequences
I think they
in this
are.
analysis.
No, they're trying to just get money immediately.
Now, you could argue that all of this stuff is simply the death of inefficient, bloated organizations that pad out their posts so that they can get as many adverts on the page as is possible. And we've all seen websites like that. They blow. And it's easy to say, well, those sites should just play the game better. But the reason they're playing that game is kind of Google. Digital outlets require advertising revenue, and Google AdSense was, and still is, the fastest way, and sometimes least invasive way, to just go and do that.
I think the interesting thing is like, Google is kind of a good example of you get what you incentivize. And you don't necessarily know what you're incentivizing when you make a change. Yeah, I feel like they probably could have had a good grasp of it if they like cared about second order effects. But they don't, because they only care about the immediate, not the future term. And that's been my biggest problem with a lot of the things that, you know, YouTube and Google and like tech companies do, is they don't care about what's going to happen in 2 years. They only care about what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks.
And the sites that did good work and wouldn't adopt, well, many
Which
of
is
them
unfortunate.
died. Of course, some that tried to adopt died too. They couldn't make enough revenue, or the ads just made the experience unbearable. And many of those
ads made
sites
the
were
experience
sold,
unbearable.
some to companies like...
I don't know about you. I don't know about how many of you people, you guys out there. I almost said you people. My bad. You guys aren't people. You guys are guys. We got it. But on the on like other websites, on like news websites and everything like that, it is so catastrophically unbearable to go to a website and fucking see an ad, see a quarter of an article before you get hit with a paywall. And even like all of like the banner and pop-up ads that like go to, that look like part of the site, but go to like sketchy offsites. I'm just not going to engage with them. Like, I think it was, you know, the good Gabe himself who said that piracy isn't a problem with money. Piracy is a service problem. And I'm using piracy here because, I mean, nobody uses these websites for articles anymore. They always get them from a secondhand source. And I'm talking about the vast majority of people, which is essentially the same thing as piracy when it comes to articles and it comes to content from websites, if they even care what's on the website to begin with. And I don't think that fixing their service entirely is going to give them traffic. I think the problem is it's just, we've become too centralized on the internet. I mean, like I said, I remember a time in the before time when there used to be more than 3 websites that people went to. I know, it's a huge shocker. I kind of want to go back to that time because at least then there was more things to do and more communities.
Out media.
But
That
good
is
luck
how
with
The
that.
Escapist, which I think most people would know as, say, the home of zero punctuation, the thing Yahtzee does.
It was
back in the day,
100% the
obviously
home.
It's different now. That gone.
Yep.
Gobbled up by ClickOut, along with a bunch of other sites like this, so that all the staff could be fired,
Yep.
and fake people like Brian Marigold can just be summoned into existence to replace them. That's obviously bad faith bullshit, and it's good that Google systems did slap them down. But the kind of secret behind all of this is it all does come back to Google. The reason sites like Video Gamer
Sure.
had to be sold in the first place is because the internet economy was fundamentally altered by Google. The husks left behind, sites that couldn't survive Google's rapid changes. Seriously, most people do not know how SEO driven this industry has been. Well, they were picked up by venture capitalists and media groups, all trying to game that same system.
It's so bad that there have been some really good websites. I'm so glad that some of them are around, like Newgrounds. They're still around. Don't know for how much longer, but they're still around. I mean, that's a little bit doomer. I think they've got a big community that probably still frequents their sites. But man, it's nothing like it used to be. Like, it used to be like one of the sites to be on.
And now Google has came in and killed some of them again.
Yep.
So, you may be wondering, where does this leave our friends at ClickOut? Well, they're in a bit of a bind. Their only real revenue is coming from page ads or their gambling site commissions. Neither of those things are an option now. But they actively chose this scheme, so obviously none of us do, I would imagine, or should feel any sympathy for them. But ClickOut Media are not Video Gamer. They're
Nope.
not The Escapist, and they're not Esports Insider. Those
No,
sites
but
were built on the legacy of the
basically do
writers
all
and
of it.
video producers who made them what they were. Their archives are still a history of games and gaming. The sort of thing someone in 50 years' time
I wonder if somebody's got a massive database of that archive. I think that would probably be useful because I'm going to be pretty sure that we'll probably see that die to link rot or die in general in the coming years. Somebody probably should have that all archived.
could look at to understand at that period of time what was going on with games. The sort of thing that genuinely should continue existing. But now, that content is unreachable because of a parasitic management team who could not appreciate what they
Optimistic prediction or optimistic observation, the spirit of what that was is preserved in content creators nowadays, because it may have changed a little bit, but there is always going to be someone out there who will act within the spirit of the way people used to review things. So
have.
at least that's a good
ClickOut
thing.
being punished is funny. We should all have
And
a
it's
good laugh at that.
completely
But now that they're invisible and search,
independent
and
from
there's
all
no
this
way to turn
bullshit.
things around, well, they either sell them off or simply dump them. So all that history, all that work, all that knowledge, gone. We all lose out, and the internet that Google wants to scrape for information gets worse and worse as a result of their own actions.
Didn't
and
somebody
the
predict-
systems that they have
Didn't somebody predict that the internet was just going to become AI cannibalizing itself?
designed? While I go and ponder why they
I feel like
changed
that's
their
pretty
company
darn
motto
true.
from "Don't be evil," how about you get started? Just go to tryhackme.com/bellular news and use code bellular25 for 25% off the annual plan. You can check out the link down
I
in
don't
the
know if I'll
description.
buy it.
And if you become
definitely do a free
the
trial,
epic
though.
hacker, do let me know. Now, go and watch this video next, because it's about Krafton.
Okay.
Honestly, it's a spicy banger. It is a damn entertaining story. It's quite literally.
I don't see the video
CEO
here for
thinks,
some reason.
I want to get out of this huge payout. ChatGPT, how do I do this? And the whole thing
I see, there it is.
backfiring on him humongously. Check it out here.
Did we just watch that? No, we just watched a different video on that. But yeah, that was crazy what's happening in Google, so to speak. I don't know. Like I said, I'm afraid that critical thinking is going to die in the future. Like, again, it is definitely something that has kept me awake for my fair share of sleepless nights. Let's put it that way. I don't know. I don't want to be too much of a doomer, though. Time to cleanse our palate. Okay. So, I'm sharing this with you because I actually am excited for yet another indie project coming to film that started on YouTube. For those of you who have been following the Backrooms, you're probably not surprised about this because you probably heard about it. But for maybe the percentage of you who do not follow the Backrooms, there was a meme called the Backrooms, kind of took off for a while, and a lot of content creators sprung up, kind of like an SCP type of thing, but for a different environment. It was really interesting. Some people like it, some people don't. But there was a creator out there called Kane or Kane Pixels. I don't remember which way to pronounce it. He started making a bunch of independent YouTube content on it that was very high quality, very interesting, and I liked it a lot. And what it is Studio A24. Big quote mean, but but Studio A24, which does a lot of good productions. Recently, they just did, or at least recently, I watched from them Warfare, which was really good. But they do a lot of independent films and are willing to greenlight a lot of projects and stuff like that. In fact, they just said that they were going to do some type of animated show or something like that. They did something. It was like also, they did Has Been Hotel, I think. Well, people can have their own opinions about that, but they still did it. And of course, they've been supporting a lot of new creators, a lot of niche creators. And it's been really, really awesome seeing that. I've been super excited about that, and it's really cool. So we're going to go ahead and watch this, especially because I'm super happy. They're also doing yes, that's right. They're doing the Elden Ring movie. I'm worried about that one because I don't know. I just have a fear about that one. I have a preternatural fear. But that being equal, we're going to watch the trailer for this because it looks awesome.
I found something.
There they are.
In the store.
Okay. What did you find?
The place.
And the fact that the guy who did the whole YouTube stuff for it's fucking awesome, dude. Ooh, spooky.
Hello?
God, I hope they have that low drone of the fluorescent lights through the entire movie. It was going to drive me insane, but be so diegetic.
Look, I know how this sounds, but you gotta understand, it's massive in there.
I'm not saying I don't believe you.
Okay, I'm gonna come back here with proof.
All right, you feel me? Yeah. Follow my lead.
Oh, it's just like the channel.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I've been there every night since I found the place, and I still barely scratched the surface. All right, just take it slow.
Now this is what the people want.
Oh my God. Pull me up, pull me up, pull me up! What do you see?
All these rooms.
That's the man. There he is.
It's like a maze. It just goes on and on. Sometimes I'm scared I'll get lost.
Clark, can you hear me? I don't understand. What is this?
Up.
It's beautiful.
That's a cool shot, by the way.
Am I right?
Hello?
Boom. So yeah, just like the Markiplier film of oh god, I can't remember what it is. Oh my god, why can't I remember it? I love that film. Why can't I remember it? Iron Lung. Oh my god, I couldn't remember it for the longest time. I'm so happy to see more independent stuff getting a lot more traction. I'm super excited to see it. I'm totally going to go see it in theaters. I cannot wait. I hope that maybe you all might too, as I think it's worth supporting indies. But, if you don't want to, it's not your thing, that's fine. Just wanted to share it. All right. We are now going to talk about browser-based Flash games. I remember these very fondly. So I'm not a fan of his horror fiction of the concept, but I can't deny that he's a good filmmaker. I can get that. I can get behind that. I'm sure that there's a lot of people who don't, enjoy that type of genre, maybe the way that he utilizes his concept and films it, but or not films it because that would be filmography, but he does very good with the way that he frames and poses scenes, at least in my opinion. I don't know. I was always kind of gripped by that as well. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like in its original, and I think that's what a lot of people, at least within the fandom, had as a criticism of him, is that he took the like more existential part of it and turned it more into more of like a less in the terms of the existential dread and more in the terms of dread and fear of the entities and creatures within it. At least that's what I've heard, and I can understand that. But I'm not part of that whole, just like SCP, I'm not part of like the whole discussion on that 100% of the time. So that's only what I've heard. But I've heard that some people were dissatisfied with it. But it looks like a good film. So you want to know what? I'm going to take the W on that one. It looks real good. All right. Like I said, though, we're going to be getting into some video on Flash games. Now, I love Flash games. I loved them when I was younger. I love them now. So let's see what the entire history of browser games is.
There is a pretty good chance that at some point in your life, you sat down at a family computer, opened up a web browser, and spent an embarrassing amount of time playing games you never paid
I would never be embarrassed by the amount of times that I spent on these games.
for. Made by people whose names you never knew. Maybe it was on a school computer while the teacher's back was turned. Maybe it was late at night when you were supposed to be asleep. The games had names like Happy Wheels or Bloons or The
I most certainly was supposed to be asleep when I was playing some of these games.
Last Stand, and they were everywhere, on every computer, always one tab away, and then one day, they were just gone. This is the history
Because
of
they killed
browser gaming,
Flash.
and it starts long before...
And we're going to be completely fair. They're not gone. They're gone from the browser for sure. Actually, I don't know why I minimize this. But you can find a lot of them in legacy collections on Steam. And I have a little notepad here that I probably not going to show, but The Last Stand has a legacy collection. Con Artist Games did in fact make a new game in the Last Stand chronology that is on Steam. Sure, maybe the Last Stand Legacy Collection. I think a lot of these are overpriced, but you can find them on Steam, and they're playable, and they're updated. Swords and Sandals on Steam. All of them are in a Legacy Collection, and there's a new one that they made, Valkyrian Arc. I don't know if you can find the originals on Steam, but the company or the group, the developer studio that made the 1 and 2, have made 2 games, Valkyrian Arc 1 at Hero School 1 and 2 on Steam. Sunny, that has a legacy collection on Steam. The Epic Battle Fantasy, the people who made that, is also on Steam. All of them, all of the numbered entries that they have. I don't know about Fancy Pants. I know that that one exists, and I haven't looked at Steam, but that one's probably going to come sooner or later, because it was a big name. Bloons 2D, obviously Bloons is on Steam. Warfare, another Con Artist game, Legacy Collection on Steam. Then I don't know about the other ones, but I know there's a lot of other, like Alien Hominid on Steam, Castle Crashers on Steam. To be fair, Flash had critical security vulnerabilities and they couldn't get working on mobile, so it's not as though they sunsetted without a cause. I know, yeah, exactly. There were a lot of reasons why Flash. In fact, Flash was already kind of going out the door before then anyway, because things were just changing on the internet, which is a shame. But because did YouTube used to run on Flash Player? I don't know. I feel like they might have. I'm not sure, but I know that they definitely were changing the way that videos and content were given to the public. But there's a lot of Flash games that have made the switch to Steam. All you have to do is go find them. The issue is that Adobe wouldn't update it, really. Yeah.
Most people think it does. In the early 1990s, the internet was not the internet we know today.
Very
true. There was no YouTube, no streaming, no social media. Most websites were text and image.
God, what a time to be alive.
just sitting there doing nothing.
Gas was just about $1 a gallon.
The language websites were built in. HTML was designed to display documents. It was not built for animation or for user input beyond clicking a link.
True.
A web page in 1993 did roughly the same things as a printed newspaper, just faster to deliver. People wanted more. The first serious attempt at fixing this problem was Java applets, which arrived alongside the Netscape browser in 1995. You could embed a small Java program directly into a web page and it would run in the browser.
I haven't heard Java in forever. Like Java as in like this application.
A few simple games showed up, card games, puzzle games, things that barely registered on a screen. The problem was that Java applets were painfully slow to load, awkward to build, and had a consistent habit of crashing browsers completely. So they lingered without...
Oh my god. Oh, I remember having a computer that would crash when you would try to load Java. Oh, that was a rough time to live.
A small company in San Diego called FutureWave Software was working on something different. Their lead developer, Jonathan Gay, had originally been building a drawing tool for pen-based computers, the stylus tablets of the early 90s that also never really took off. When that market collapsed, Gay and his team pivoted. They took their drawing software, rebuilt it around animation, and released it as Future Splash Animator in late 1995. Future Splash was not a game engine, it was an animation tool. You could draw things, set keyframes, and publish them as small, lightweight files that embedded in a web page and played back smoothly, even over the dial-up connection. Just
looking at this web page right here, this is like it's activating memories I didn't even know that I didn't even remember that I had.
Page and played
not anyone specifically, but just the web page. Look.
The reason the files were so small was that Future Splash used vector graphics, which store shapes as mathematical instructions rather than grids of pixels. An object moving across a screen didn't require hundreds of frames stored as images. It only required instructions for how to move. Disney.
God, speaking of all of these other, like all these old websites, like I am getting a flood of websites that existed because of like these animations and stuff like this, and like specific to their own animation that they're just gone now.
Used it. Microsoft used
like they
it
might
for their
still
early
technically
MSN
be
rollout.
up, but
and near the end of 1996,
their traffic has to be in the
Macromedia,
single
one of the
digits.
biggest names in multimedia software, bought FutureWave and
Macromedia,
shortened the name. We called it
brother.
Flash under
Macromedia
started
Flash,
out as an animation tool with some basic scripting on top. Those scripts let designers add buttons.
Oh my god. I remember the Madness series. I remember it very
Simple
distinctly.
Menus, small pieces of interactivity. Game developers were not the target audience.
I remember this game. I played it.
Yet, game developers started poking at it.
It was a good game. I remember that you could always, with whoever was your red person right here, you could always get a grenade and bounce Bob into the pit, and you wouldn't have to deal with at least one person.
A tool that let you publish something to any browser, have it load within seconds, and have it respond to button presses had never really existed before in any reliable form. That was enough. At almost the exact same moment Flash was getting started, a college student in Philadelphia named Tom Fulp had built his own website. Fulp had been making...
Creator of the Behemoth games, which is, in my opinion, an amazing studio.
Games since he was a teenager, and now he wanted somewhere online to put them. In 1995, he launched a site called Newground Remix, later consolidated into what became Newgrounds. In these early days, Newgrounds was mostly just Fulp's own work. His games were violent, edgy, built around shock humor, the kind of thing that in retrospect looks like exactly what a young person let loose on the internet in the mid-90s would make. The site attracted an audience, but it was still small and
oh my god. Oh, I remember some of these animations.
Personal. When Flash arrived, Fulp recognized what it could do almost immediately. He started building in it. His 1999 game, Pico's School.
I remember this game.
A point-and-click action game set around a school.
It would never be able to be made today.
Crude and dark and made on a shoestring, did something that almost no other browser game had managed before. It had personality. It had a perspective. It felt like it came from an actual person with actual opinions rather than from a corporation trying to put a game
oh my
on the
god.
internet. Players had never really seen anything like it in their browsers. The site visits spiked. Pico's School pushed Flash from being a tool people made animations with into being a tool people could make games with, and Newgrounds became the place.
Oh my god, this was... I cannot believe... I cannot believe where we've made it to.
those
That
games
was a
lived. By
wild
2000,
time to
Hope had
live.
received
To
enough
live.
user submissions that the old manual review system was falling apart. He opened up submissions to an automated portal with a public rating system. Anyone could upload their own Flash games and animations. The audience voted on everything. The best stuff loaded up. Most of it was bad. Some of it was genuinely extraordinary. And the community that grew around this was unlike anything else on the web at the time. But Newgrounds wasn't the only place this was happening. And the ecosystem that grew up around Flash games was
Armor Games, Congregate, Addicting Games, Cool Math Games. And there are a couple other sites mixed in there called Penguin. Dude, the Line Writer. Adventure Quest.
bigger than any single website. Miniclip
I'm
launched
getting
in
like,
2001
I'm sitting in my chair going, as they're like beaming into my eyes.
And user-generated chaos.
All
Miniclip
of this
was clean,
nostalgic
bright, and
stuff
family-friendly.
for me.
It curated its library carefully. Games on Miniclip went through quality control.
Yep, Miniclip.
Parents were okay with their kids using it, which meant it got enormous traffic. By
Yep,
the mid-2000s,
yep.
Miniclip was one of the most visited websites in the world, with hundreds of millions of registered
Not gonna lie, I didn't go to Miniclip that often. I thought their games were juvenile and boring.
users. Then there was
Most of
Addicting
them.
Games in 2004,
There we
owned
are.
by Nickelodeon, which attached the browser
They were owned by Nickelodeon? Huh. I didn't know that. Oh, bark, 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 bark.
game world to a massive children's media brand. There was Armor Games in the same year,
There we go.
which became known for
By the
hosting
way, they have their own publisher on Steam.
some of the most ambitious Flash games anyone had.
They are their
attempted.
own publisher
And there
on
was
Steam.
Congregate, which launched in
Oh, my love.
2006 and introduced something new to the Portal model. Congregate had achievements and experience points for playing games, turning the act of browsing the site itself into something with progression. You weren't just playing individual games, you were building a profile across all of them. Each portal had its own personality,
Swords and
its own audience,
sandals.
and its own relationship with the developers who supplied it. And that relationship was how the money actually worked. A Flash game developer in the mid-2000s had two main ways to make money. The first was sponsorship. A Portal would pay a developer upfront to brand their game with the Portal's logo, sometimes for a period of exclusivity, sometimes just to be the first place the game appeared. Payments range from a few $100s for something small to tens of thousands for a game the Portal
I didn't even know that they got paid for that. That's pretty cool.
really believed in. Armor Games reportedly paid the developer
Age of War.
behind Age of War a contract worth $15,000 just to make a sequel. For someone working alone out of their bed,
They got paid $15,000 to make a sequel, which, by the way, Age of War 2 was pretty good. I can't believe that. That's
that
a
was more
lot of
than
money.
many professional jobs. The second model was revenue sharing. A game went up on Congregate or Newgrounds. The Portal ran ads around it, and the developer took home between 25 and 50% of whatever those ads made based on how many people played. This scaled directly with quality. A game that was genuinely good and that people kept coming back to could generate a steady income for years from a single upload. Neither of these models required a publisher, a retail deal, or a marketing budget. They required the game.
Truly
and
the
an
spirit of
internet
indie
connection.
games.
For the first time in the history of video games, a person could
Oh
make
my God,
something
there we go. We
alone
got-
and have millions
We got Fancy Pants, Alien Hominid. Let's see what else we got. I don't know any of these other thumbnail. I mean, obviously that's Henry Stickmin. I've seen these around. Oh, we got Super Meat Boy.
playing it within a week, and people did exactly that. The specific nature of Flash as a tool is what made all of this possible. ActionScript, the programming language built into Flash, was approachable in a way that almost no
Oh,
other
there we
game
go.
development tool.
You got your madness right here. Lava Boy and Water Girl or whatever that is. Oh my God, you got that. You got the, was it the turtle game? Launch a Turtle. Homestar Runner. Oh my gosh. That's an unlocked memory. And Happy Tree Friends. Oh, Happy Tree Friends.
was. You did
They
not need to
actually made it
understand
onto
memory
Spike TV, I
management or
think.
graphics pipelines. If you
Back
could
when
draw
Spike
something
TV
on
used to be a
screen,
thing.
You could write a few lines of ActionScript and make it move when a player pressed a key. The gap between having an idea and having a working prototype was lower in Flash than in basically any other context that existed. This meant the people making Flash games were not mainly trained programmers. They were graphic design students who had learned a bit of code. They were teenagers who had followed tutorials. They were people who had simply decided to try something. Flash had no
Man, can we have this
It did
era
not
of
care about
gaming back,
credentials.
please?
The flip side was that an enormous amount of Flash content was bad. Genuinely,
True.
irredeemably bad. Newgrounds
To be fair, 100% true. Like, in order, like, you had to wade through the garbage pile in order to find the gems, but when there were gems, the gems were pristine.
especially had a volume problem, but the rating systems helped with sorting, and the community that developed around the portals was genuinely interested in quality. Newgrounds forums became a place where developers shared code, critiqued each other's work, and taught each other techniques in public. Someone who made a rough first game in 2002 could be making something accomplished by 2004 because the feedback loop was fast and the audience was honest. A whole generation of game developers was self-teaching through this ecosystem, and they were doing it on games that anyone in the world could play for free. The range of what those games attempted expanded dramatically between roughly 2003 and 2007. Early Flash games were mostly short and arcade-like, built around one mechanic.
By the way, this game, The Last Stand, still holds up to today. Like, it's not that long, but it still holds up and like it's still entertaining, and I'm pretty sure that's not just nostalgia talking.
To eat 5 minutes of someone's time. By the mid-2000s, developers were making full RPGs, strategy games, physics puzzlers, and games that had written narratives and multiple endings. Stick RPG from X-Gen Studios let you live out a life of crime or success in a stick-figure city, leveling up stats and buying property. It was crude, and it was popular because nothing like it existed free on the web. The Last Stand from Con Artist Games was a zombie survival game with resource management and a day-night cycle. Sunny, from a single developer named Krin Juangfanich, was a turn-based RPG with more mechanical depth.
If only there was more of this game series.
Most Flash games bothered attempting. Desktop Tower Defense arrived in 2007 and was made by a single developer named Paul Preece over a few weeks. It almost single-handedly pushed tower defense into the mainstream. Pandemic, where you design and spread a disease to wipe out.
Does this look familiar?
But the human population.
This should look very familiar.
Working under the name Dark Realm Studios. Balloons, a balloon popping game from two developers at a small New Zealand studio called Ninja Kiwi, started as a small experiment and spawned a franchise that eventually became a multi-million-dollar mobile gaming company. These people had no idea they were building anything that would last. They were making games in a tool that was easy to learn and publishing them to sites that would show them to anyone.
This was just loaded onto Microsoft. I used to play this in our computer lab all the time.
The physics game genre became a particular Flash specialty.
Oh, I played that one.
Arrived in 2006 and barely qualified as a game.
There was a huge YouTube community around this game.
At all. You drew lines on a screen, and a small figure on a sled would follow them. There were no objectives, no score, no ending. People spent hours on it and shared their best tracks as videos. It was the first hint that the browser game space could produce things that did not fit any traditional definition of what a game was supposed to be. 2010 brought Happy Wheels from Jimbonacci, a game with ragdoll physics, user-created levels, and the kind of absurd violent humor that felt like it had been distilled directly from a decade of Newgrounds culture. Happy Wheels accumulated billions of plays over its life.
There's still people who play Happy Wheels.
YouTubers in the early 2010s built their audiences on, connecting the Flash gaming era directly to the rise of gaming content on YouTube. And then there was the side of the Flash world that had nothing to do with Newgrounds at all. Poptropica launched in 2007 and built a complete adventure game world.
I've never heard of this game.
Aimed at kids between 6 and 15. At its peak, it had 75 million registered users. Club Penguin from Disney.
I have heard about this one.
Live out a social life as cartoon penguins on a shared server. RuneScape, while usually discussed as an MMORPG, ran in a browser window and was free to play.
I have put so many hours into old school RuneScape. Not only in 2008, whenever I was playing it, because it was like one of the only games that I could play that was an MMO on a shitty computer because it ran in the browser. But I have put games into it recently. Like he's using the Charlie right here. He's using the RuneLite browser and everything. He's all swagged out with the nice like launch systems and nice textures.
And for millions of kids in the mid-2000s, it was the first massively online game they ever touched. Schools deserve their own part of this story because they played a bigger role in building the Flash game audience than most people acknowledge. In the early 2000s,
because you could play them on school PCs, and it was a constant battle between the school trying to block the websites on whatever program that they have for a website blocker, and the children using VPNs and other types of websites in order to access the website to go through the VPN because they haven't blocked the website that you could use to go to it on.
Many school computers had Flash installed as standard because Flash was used for educational content. Interactive textbooks, teacher presentations, school websites all ran on it. This meant Flash games worked on school computers, and students figured this out quickly. Cool Math Games, which had been running since 1997, positioned itself as an educational site full of games involving mathematical thinking. Whether those those games were actually educational is a question generations of students carefully avoided asking, because the important thing was that cool math games worked on filtered school networks that blocked most entertainment sites.
Yep,
What
there it
this
is,
created
the filtered school networks.
was a specific kind of childhood experience that a lot of people who grew up in that era still carry around. A computer
I was never a cool math games person, by the way. I didn't really like cool math games, probably because it had math in the name.
lab, a teacher at the front of the
Very
room, and a
contrarian when
browser
it came
tab
to
hidden
those types
behind
of
whatever you were
things.
supposed to be doing. The game was probably not very good by any objective measure. You probably had better games at home on a console, but you were at
But you were
school,
playing
and
it at
was there
school.
and free and working, and that
Yep.
made it the best available thing in that moment. This is where the technology and the culture fused together in a way that is almost impossible to recreate later. Flash games were not always technically impressive. Many of them were not even good, but they were woven
They were not technically impressive, but they were fun to play.
into the specific
That's where
texture
we've
of being
lost a lot of
particular
that
age at a particular
our
moment
current-
in internet history. That combination
in our
of
current
access,
iteration of
freedom,
gaming.
and the particular circumstances of being a kid in the early 2000s is what gives this era its weight for people who were there. But all of this was running against a background of technological change that would eventually threaten the whole thing, and that process started earlier than most people remember. The first cracks appeared quietly. JavaScript, the scripting language that had always lived alongside HTML in ordinary web pages, started getting dramatically more powerful in the late 2000s. Google's Chrome browser launched in 2008 with a new JavaScript engine that ran
Jesus.
code many times faster than anything that had come before. Things that had required Flash, smooth animations, basic games, interactive content were starting to become possible without it. The larger problem was mobile. Apple released the iPhone in 2007. The App Store opened in 2008. Mobile gaming had
Yeah, I
existed
think this is
before
the-
both of these things, but
what
had
we were
never
talking about, not
amounted
going to be
much.
able to go
Now it had a
mobile.
platform that worked, and Flash did not work on the iPhone. Apple and Adobe had actually tried to get Flash running on iOS in the early development period. Scott Forstall, Apple's head of engineering
was a
at the
huge
time,
problem
later
from what I
stated in a legal
remember.
deposition that they gave it a genuine attempt, and the performance was, in his words,
Awful.
abysmal and embarrassing. Steve Jobs made Apple's position explicit and public on April 29, 2010. He published an open letter on Apple's website titled Thoughts on Flash. It was 1,700 words and it was not diplomatic. Flash was unreliable, it crashed browsers, it drained batteries, it had been designed for mouse input and had no concept of touch. It was a security risk, and it was
I could imagine that. Like, that's so unfortunate. I just like, I don't know. I feel like there was probably something that probably could be done. And I think we lost something when we lost Flash. At least we lost something in the immediate. Maybe nowadays it'd probably be dead already. But when it was killed, it was like, oh,
not open
man.
technology despite Adobe's claims. Jobs ended with a line that was pointed enough to have been remembered ever since. He suggested Adobe should focus on creating HTML5 tools for the future rather than criticizing Apple for leaving the past behind. The response was fierce. Adobe's CEO called it an extraordinary attack. Developers who had built careers on Flash were furious. Critics pointed out that Jobs was being deeply hypocritical, that Apple's App Store was far more of a closed system than Flash had ever been.
Yeah.
And that
That
blocking
is
Flash
probably
was at
true
least
as
partly
well.
about protecting the App Store from web-based competition. Some of that criticism was fair, but the specific technical complaints Jobs made were harder to argue with. Testing
can
of
imagine,
Flash
yeah.
on Android devices in 2010 showed exactly the battery drain and crashes he had described. By 2011, Adobe announced it was ceasing development of the Flash player for mobile browsers entirely. The mobile battle was over. The problem was that mobile was now where gaming was going. Not all gaming, but an enormous and growing share of it. Casual games, the exact type of games Flash had always been best at, were the biggest market on mobile by a wide margin.
By the way, all of these games on mobile, I mean, obviously besides the ones that like are provably good, I can't get into them. They all seem like, I mean, I guess you have the Minecraft Pocket Edition, which is nice as a port, but like it's got the same problem as Flash. There's so much garbage that you have to sift through the garbage in order to find something that's even genuinely worth playing.
The same audience that had spent years playing Flash
But it's not the
games on
same
school
with
computers
Flash.
and family desktops was now on phones, and Flash was not on phones. Browsers started getting aggressive
They're all
about
like
security around the same time. and
gotcha
this made
money
things worse
pits.
in a different direction. Flash had a long and painful history of vulnerabilities. A new exploit seemed to surface every few months, and because Flash was installed on essentially every computer in the
Yeah,
world, each
you
one
can
of
get
those
into it.
exploits was a significant problem. Browser
Yeah.
makers started adding click-to-play requirements, meaning users had to actively choose to run Flash rather than it loading automatically automatically. In 2016, Chrome began blocking Flash.
By the way, that was super annoying. I remember when that happened and I was pissed off. I was just like, dude, just let me play the fucking game.
Default. You had to go into browser settings and specifically enable it. For casual browser gaming, this was close to fatal.
That's what happened with, you know, Adult Swim games, because that was about the time that like they were at their peak, or at least somewhere near their peak. They were producing really good games, really good quality games. I remember every time I wanted to play an Adult Swim game, it was just, I got to click it to make sure you sure you want to play this? It's like, yes, fucking do. Same with Roblox as well. I could see that, yeah.
The entire model depended on frictionless access. You clicked the link, the game loaded, you played. Add a single extra step between the user and the game, and a substantial portion of casual users simply would not bother. Portal traffic started dropping. Developers started building for mobile, or for Unity, which had its own browser plugin for a while, before also moving away from that approach. The sponsorship money that had once supported a whole ecosystem of independent developers started to dry up. Adobe made the final announcement in July 2017. Flash would reach end of life on December 31st, 2020. After that date, Adobe would stop issuing security updates and browsers would remove support completely. The announcement was not a surprise to anyone who had been paying attention, but the specific date, the formality of it, made something click for a lot of people who had grown up with Flash but had not thought about it in years.
Truly the end of a gaming era.
Like just a permanent part of the internet was going to stop working. The games were not going to be slow or glitchy. They were going to be unplayable. And this is where the story gets complicated in a way that the gaming industry was not fully prepared for.
I know there was like a really strong movement of people who were either trying to preserve Flash games being able to be played with some type of Flash emulator plugin, or they were trying to preserve the games themselves. I don't remember which one it was, but I remember hearing something about that.
Game you buy on a disc or download to a hard drive. Flash games had no persistent form that users owned. They existed on servers. They ran through a browser plugin. When the plugin stopped working, the games would not just become unavailable.
I remember that there was somebody looking for old PCs because the cache in them might actually have files for games. So like, I remember that there was somebody or a grouping of somebodies who were actively going through garage sales and actively going through like other types of secondary sales resources in order to try to find these old tower desktops. Because, you know, a lot of people still had them in their cache.
There would be nothing to run them with.
Which I think is fucking amazing.
Files, the packages the games were stored in, required Flash Player to execute. Without the player, the file was inert and the plugin was going away. This meant the entirety of browser gaming, tens of thousands of games spanning over 2 decades of creative output, was facing something close to permanent deletion. Most of these games had never been sold, had no commercial value that would motivate a company to preserve them, and had been made by individuals or small studios that no longer existed. There was no publisher whose job it was to keep them alive. The gaming preservation community had been watching this coming for years. Everyone thought this was the end. But that's when a hero arrived. In December 2017, an Australian developer who went by the username Maxima, real name Ben Latimore, started a project called Flashpoint. The goal was direct: download and archive as much Flash content as possible before the end of life date arrived. Not just save the files, but build a working environment where those files could actually be played, a launcher with its own local web server that could serve Flash content from a hard drive without needing a live internet connection. The scale of what Flashpoint accomplished is difficult to describe without the numbers. By the time Flash officially ended in December 2020, the project had preserved over 100,000 games and animations.
Still exist?
By 2025, that number had grown to over 200,000 pieces of content across more than 100 different browser technologies. Volunteers had spent years hunting down games from dead links, contacting developers to get source files, reverse engineering how games had communicated with servers so that server behavior could be replicated locally.
The .org?
The full offline version of the archive reached nearly 1.5 terabytes in size. It was one of the largest acts of digital preservation ever carried out by a community of unpaid volunteers.
Holy
there was also
shit.
Ruffle, an open source Flash emulator built in the Rust programming language, which aimed to make Flash content playable directly inside a modern browser without the original Flash player at all. Ruffle could not run everything, particularly the games built on the more complex later versions of ActionScript, but it ran a large amount of Flash content in a working state and was integrated directly into the
wonder if there's
into Newgrounds, into Armor games, and Cool Math games, meaning classic games from across.
I wonder if there's an archive for all of the animation Flash that they did as well, because I remember that there was a lot of like communities of Flash animations. And I mean, obviously that might be a little bit easier to translate to YouTube because a game's a little bit more, I would say, interactive. So maybe they could just do it as an animation. But I wonder if there's like a repository or some type of database that somebody also got for those. I'd be curious. There's a lot of old Flash animated content that I remember, and I wouldn't know where to go. I mean, obviously you could look on YouTube, but different experience.
The era became playable in a modern browser again without installing anything. Tom Fulp at Newgrounds had been preparing for this day for years. He had built the site almost entirely around Flash. Getting it ready for a post-Flash world meant converting or re-engineering a library of hundreds of thousands of games and animations. Many of them survived the transition, some did not, but the fact that Newgrounds itself survived, that it adapted and kept going, mattered to a community that had been there since the beginning. December 31st, 2020 arrived. Adobe shut off the player. Browsers removed support. However, this is not the end of our story, not by a long shot. What Flash left behind goes well beyond the games themselves. The line from browser gaming to the indie games industry is direct and traceable. Edmund McMillan spent years making Flash games on Newgrounds before he had any commercial career at all. His game Ether, a meditative exploration game about a lonely child, got him noticed. His game Meat Boy, a precision platformer posted to Newgrounds in 2008, was played over 8 million times. Nintendo and Microsoft both contacted him as a direct result, and that led to Super Meat Boy in 2010, one of the most celebrated indie games of its generation. He went on to make The Binding of Isaac, which became a multi-million-dollar franchise with physical editions, merchandise, and expansions still releasing today.
There was like a huge conversion between like indie games and like Flash games, because I mean, like, we saw like a bunch of like what I would consider to be proto released games in Alien Hominid and stuff like that. Like Alien Hominid was literally released on the GameCube. Like, it was a full-fledged game. You can go play it right now. Castle Crashers had their demo on Newgrounds. Like, a lot of these Flash game makers made the transition into the games industry, and I think like that's really cool. And I'm upset that now we have to depend on like one platform to do that. I wish we could have independent platforms like this where people could just like throw something together, put it out there as like a real quick 5-minute thing that you can just go and play. I mean, I guess we kind of can, but like it's not the same.
As a Flash game. He had to abandon Flash to finish
just a little different now.
Flash's limitations were constraining what he could build. The Behemoth, the studio behind Castle
there we
Crashers, grew directly out of the Newgrounds community. Dan Paladin's art had been a fixture on Newgrounds for years before Castle Crashers became one of the most downloaded games on Xbox Live Arcade in 2008.
Oh my god, I played it.
Lead developer of
I played it on Xbox Live Arcade.
Friday Night Funkin' in 2020 deliberately
haven't played this one.
Like something from the Newgrounds era of 2005, built as an active tribute to that aesthetic. It became one of the most played rhythm games of its generation. Bloons Tower Defense evolved from a small Flash game made by 2 people into a mobile franchise with dozens of entries. The Fancy Pants Adventures found its way onto PlayStation Network. The Tower Defense genre, as a mainstream category, traces back in a straight line to the Flash portals of 2006.
I didn't know
also
Fancy Pants
worth
did.
saying about what the browser game era meant for who got to make games. Before Flash, game development required either resources that most people did not have or a connection to an industry that most people were not part of. Flash changed that for a specific window of time. Artists who could write a few lines of code could publish games. Teenagers could post something to Newgrounds on a Tuesday and have 100,000 people play it by Friday. The games that came from this were often rough and sometimes bad and occasionally extraordinary, and the people who made them were almost universally not the people the games industry was paying attention to. The Flash game era is easy to write off.
Kingdom Rush, your goat. Kingdom Rush was pretty good.
Simple, and they ran inside a plugin that the whole industry eventually decided was a problem. But the specific circumstances that created that era, a technology that was easy enough to learn that almost anyone could use it, a distribution model that required no gatekeepers, and an audience of young people who wanted entertainment.
That was
an
Armored Games one.
Never quite lined up again in the same way. The games are still out there. Flashpoint has them. The Internet Archive has them with Ruffle running underneath. Newgrounds is still there. If you wanted to, you could play Meat Boy tonight. You could play Desktop Tower Defense. You could play whatever game you spent too much time on in a school computer lab in 2006, and it would probably not hold your attention the way it once did, because part of what made it good was being 12 years old in a room with nothing better to do. That is what the Flashpoint Archive
I could get behind that.
Not the experience, which was partly about a specific time in your life and cannot be bottled, but the artifact itself, the thing. The file that proves that it was there and that people cared about it enough to build it in the first place.
It's so weird because it's just like, there's going to be no analogous to this for people growing up nowadays. And the reason why there's going to be no analogous to it is because everybody's got a phone. It's just like, you don't have to sit down in a classroom where it's boring as fuck and try to sneak playing a game behind the teacher. It just doesn't exist anymore. I don't know. It feels ruinous to me in a way.
Without preservation, the evidence disappears. With it, someone who wants to understand what this era was can actually look at it, can actually play it, rather than just reading about it from someone who was there. Browser
being
gaming
told
lasted
about it.
20 years in any meaningful form. It was chaotic and unpolished and often bad.
Man,
It
I
was
remember
also
Swords
the
and
first time in the
Sandals.
history of games that anyone
remember
with
this
enough
game.
curiosity and time could make
Barely, but I
something
remember
and
it.
show it to the world. And the number of people who took that opportunity and ran with it, who went from posting games on Newgrounds to building careers that changed the shape of the games industry, is hard to overstate. The plugin is gone. The portals are mostly quiet, but
The
the
games are
got
still
saved,
there.
and some of the people who made them are still making games, just somewhere else.
Good.
And yeah, that's the beautiful history of Flash games. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe and comment what your favorite Flash
Boom.
game was. And hey, why not go replay it? Get a bit of nostalgia.
I already did, brother. I'm way ahead of you on that one. I definitely think that it's sad. It's sad that like the experience around Flash games definitely is going to go away. Like, I understand why. Obviously, like, you know, I'm not gonna say that it's worse, but I definitely think that there was a certain experience that is going to be missed out on by people by not being able to experience them in their truest form. But it is what it is. I'm just happy that we got them still. Like, I think those games deserve to be preserved. And I'm glad that we did get to preserve them, because a lot of older things kind of tend to not be preserved in the moment because people don't have the clarity of mind. But now with, you know, the cross sections with the lost media community and a lot of people seeing it as, you know, something to be preserved, I'm glad that we have that. I'm glad we have that mentality going into new things. All right. Unfortunately, I'm going to go to the bathroom here real quick. Sorry about that. Let me just go ahead and boom. Nope, we don't want that. All right, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. But we're going to watch this Brendan Herrera video next, and then we'll probably watch the Rev video, and that'll be it for the night. All right, let's see what Brendan Herrera's got for us. Probably going to have some opinions on this. I know. Shock and awe. Horror, even. All right, let's see. What do we got?
What is up, you sexy YouTube mother lovers, and welcome
Why, thank
back
you.
to actually something we don't get to do very often, a video where we get to talk about gun laws and say that we have some good news.
Gasp.
Have you, as a law-abiding American citizen, ever wanted to own a machine gun?
Every day of my life, I have wanted to own a machine gun ever since I took a shot with my first gun that I used.
Is a bear shit in the woods?
If the answer to that question is no, I would recommend getting your testosterone checked. Machine guns
No need,
are
brother.
based- All right, seriously, we don't have to do that every fucking time. Well, there's apparently
Yes,
a
you
few
do.
states that are proposing a new law that would allow you to do just that. Now, machine guns are already technically legal in the United States, but incredibly heavily regulated. Half the shit I have behind me on that wall is a machine gun, but I am a
I don't know if he's going to talk about it, but for those of you who don't live in the United States or don't know, you can own a machine gun. They are taxed. You have to get a tax on them specifically, and the FAA, no, it's not the FAA. It's whatever the federal firearms. I think it is the FAA, the Federal Firearms Commission or administration has to be aware of it, and you have to pay a tax to them every year, maybe. But you can own one. It's just getting the permit to own one and paying the tax. It's a pretty hefty tax. Is incredibly prohibitive.
702 FFL with SOT.
FFL is what it is.
Very complicated way of saying I've got hella licensing that allows me to do that as a dealer. Now, the average American citizen can still buy a machine gun, but it has to be a transferable machine gun, meaning that it was a machine gun that
before
was registered
86
with the NFA prior to May of 1986. And since that's a very limited amount of guns, they're very expensive, you know, supply and demand and all that. But what if there was a way for an average non-felon, law-abiding gun owner to be able to buy a new production machine gun?
Every day. No, it's not with the ATF. It's a different organization. I'm pretty sure. It might be under the ATF, maybe, but I didn't think it was. That was the weird part about it. But I might be misremembering. You might be correct, but I might be, and I might just be an idiot. But yes.
Well, good news. New legislation has been proposed in several states, possibly allowing you to do just that.
And please, for the love of God, make this federal precedent. If this please make it go to the Supreme Court and have the Supreme Court adjudicate on it. Abolish the ATF. They are a regulatory body, not a lawmaking body. They cannot impose laws. Get rid of them.
Something I'm actually kind of surprised hasn't happened before, but it's exploiting a loophole in the Hughes Amendment to the Firearm Owners Protection Act.
Okay, the legislation that makes machine gun ownership illegal.
Which ironically is the exact amendment that prohibits civilian machine gun ownership of a machine gun that was made after 1986. So the Firearm Owner Protection Act was Ronald Reagan's bill that, you know, was supposed to do just that, protect firearm owners. But unfortunately, a Democrat member of Congress, Hughes, tacked on the Hughes Amendment, basically limiting the window for you to be able to register a machine gun under the NFA to May of 1986, meaning that all the machine guns that were on the market were all that American civilians would be able to buy moving forward. You couldn't register a new one. But there's a new bill that's being proposed in places like Kentucky, West Virginia, Idaho, and hopefully soon in Texas.
Kentucky,
Kentucky, West Virginia, Idaho,
based,
and hopefully
probably
soon in Texas, that gets around that law in a honestly very interesting way. It's a very new concept, and just like constitutional carry, it might be one of those things that happens in one state and then starts spreading all over the country.
Oh, for the love of God.
Because if there's one thing every red-blooded American wants to do, it's spreading them. Who writes these? Jokes aside, this is actually a very interesting subject. I have not seen a loophole exploited quite this way, and I'm curious to see if this actually has legs. We're going to dive a little bit into the details, but what this might be is one of the final nails in the coffin that finally puts the NFA away.
So, an act relating to the establishment of the Office of Public Defense, whereas the General Assembly finds and declares that the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution declares that, quote, a well-regulated militia, comma, I think independent clause, being necessary for the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed. There are a lot of different clauses in there, and that's where a lot of the legal arguments are coming from. And whereas in the District of Columbia v. Heller, 554 U.S. 570, 2008, the United States Supreme Court explained that the Second Amendment's prefatory militia clause announces the amendment's purpose and serves as a clarifying function as to the amendment's protections. To that end, the Second Amendment guarantees that the people's unrestricted access to arms to repel invasions and suppress insurrections, render large standing armies unnecessary, and resist tyranny. And whereas the Supreme Court explained that the people protected by the Second Amendment unambiguously refers to all members of the political community and not not as unspecified subset, close quote, and presumably extends to all all Americans, close quotes. And whereas the Supreme Court further explains that the original meaning of the term arms used in the Second Amendment includes, quote, weapons of offense or armor of defense, close quote, semicolon, quote, anything that a man wears for his defense or takes into his hands or useth in wrath to cast at or strike another, close quotes, and at a minimum, quotes, all firearms, close quotes, and thus the Supreme Court explained, quote, the Second Amendment extends prima facie, I know that word, I don't remember how to pronounce it, comma, to all instruments and constitute, sorry, it's a little blurry, and constitute bearable arms, even those that were not in existence at the time of founding. TLDR of what this is saying that the militia clause about it is only in service of explaining, but it is not a limiting factor. The fact that the Second Amendment guarantees the people, where is it? Another way of wording it is being necessary for the security of free states, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Also, for a well-regulated militia, it is also these things as well. It is explaining the entirety of the rest of it, but put at the beginning. So their argument is, at least in the Supreme Court, that a well-regulated militia is not the limiting factor of it, and that all Americans, regardless of their status, as long as they are of the political class, which means that they are not denied political privileges, they are allowed to have any arms that they can, and arms does not, in fact, be limited to arms of the day. It is all arms that could exist currently and in the future.
Because if there's one thing I've been firm on in this channel...
Big, huge.
Man, the innuendo's getting crazy. Because if there's one thing I've been firm about in this channel, it's that the NFA is gay.
He says it. Finally, thank you. Very true.
Isn't that comfy? I'm also going to talk to you about Lear Capital. You ever
Oh,
thought about
boy.
investing in metals? Like precious metals, not
No.
like the heavy metals that are in all of your food and probably in your testicles. Precious metals are a great...
Hey, I don't got no metals in
they're
my
never worth
testicles.
nothing.
I only
They're
have
actually,
plastics, all
you know,
right?
The growth in the tech sectors, silver and
I
gold
like my
are very,
plastics.
very useful
They
for
taste
practical
very good.
applications,
Thank
which is
you
one of
very
the reasons
much.
why they've kind of shot through the roof recently. A lot of people got a little scared with the recent correction in the market. I'm not one of them. I still have my holdings. Diamond hands.
That logo's a
But the
bit
people I've
crunchy
talked to,
there.
especially over at Lear Capital, they're still predicting $6,000 gold and $200 silver at some point in the future. And given the rate of inflation in the last, 50 to 100 fucking years, it's better than the shitcoin known as the US dollar. Because for fuck's sake, if the government does not stop printing money, we're going to be in a very, very bad way.
That's very true.
Somebody should run for office and fix that.
We're going to let that hang in the air for about a minute. Microplastics, yummy, yummy. You're not wrong. Microplastics are yummy, yummy. I love them so much.
Anyway, Lear Capital is a fantastic resource if you're looking to learn more about investing in precious metals. I keep trying to tell Lear that if they're trying to sell people on, information and learning more about investing and investing in precious metals, it's about learning. You should have like a Lear, a Learing center. So like Learing
I'd go to this Learing Center.
Center.com, but apparently some place in, Somalia or Minnesota already has that taken. Long
Same place.
story short, it's not too late to invest, and you can download free information from them over at Lear Capital. You
Man,
can
he
call
cooked
them
them.
at 800
That was-
855-7272,
Oh, no.
or you can go to learbrandon.com. That will be in the description and in the pinned comment as well, of course. And you can receive up to $20,000
Well, I'm sold.
in free
I'm sold on
bonus
heavy metals.
with
What
a
about you?
qualified purchase. And once again, for
Totally
no
sold.
reason in particular, I feel like I'm going to walk back over to the bar/desk while also thanking SDI, Sonoran Desert Institute, for once again being a sponsor of the channel. We greatly appreciate them. If you ever wanted to get your start in gunsmithing and weapons technology, You don't know where to start. Maybe
You want to
check
know what? I'm going to add that to the list because I'm being advertised a website, and maybe there might be something there that I could try
them
out.
out. Links are in the description and in the pinned comment.
So without being too long-winded about it, here's the scoop. State Representatives Chris Rose in West Virginia and TJ Roberts in Kentucky have proposed some new legislation.
This is
basically
local
exploiting a
legislation,
legal
right?
loophole that might allow average, everyday, law-abiding, non-felon
By the way, might be time to move to Kentucky, might be time to move to West Virginia, might be time to move to Idaho. I don't know. Listen, I'll never tell you when I move, but there will be signs.
citizens to buy newly manufactured machine guns directly from their state governments. And this isn't like
Hell
some of those
yeah.
bills that you've seen where it's like two-way sanctuary states, or like the thing they tried to do in Texas where they said, oh, suppressors are legal as long as they're in Texas. Because then you always had the NFA to worry about, and even though it's legal in the state, it may not be legal federally. But these bills are unique in a way.
So just a bit of clarification on that. There are like two sets of laws that the average United States citizen lives under. There is the state law, which is the law of the state in which you reside. And then there is the federal law. And oftentimes there are things that are not illegal under state law, but are illegal federally, and you can be prosecuted for them federally. Marijuana was a good example of that. In fact, I believe that marijuana is still illegal in the federal government. Let me see. Let me see. Yes, marijuana is still illegal federally. Just most states have passed laws that state it is no longer illegal in that state to essentially be part of or to be utilizing. What does that mean? That means the federal government still has the power to prosecute you under federal marijuana legislation because it's still a whatever scheduled drug it is. That's why federal employees can't have it. That's very interesting. So I'm going to be wondering what's going to happen with this because this could be a, quote, constitutional crisis. And I hope it is because I think that we have the momentum, at least to a Second Amendment supporters have the momentum to actually effectuate federal legislation. I pray every day
that they exploit federal law. And basically what this comes down to is a clause within the Hughes Amendment itself, basically saying that the ban on ownership or transfer of newly manufactured machine guns doesn't apply when it was transferred by a government, in this case, the state government. So these state legislators begged to
that is fucking slippery as fuck. That's hilarious.
ask the question, does that mean we can just set up a government agency that sells machine guns to the people?
Yes.
And from some of the attorneys that I've spoken to in a lot of gun rights groups, the answer seems to be, yeah, probably.
It's not illegal. The law says private citizens. It doesn't say public entities.
Never in my life have I ever heard of anybody trying to exploit this loophole, and I'm currently wondering why it's taken this long. But yeah, if this legislation...
Because the prevailing thought is the spirit of the law was in order to block something, and that spirit of the law translates into the public entities doing it. However, we don't live in a society in which values the spirit of the law anymore. We live in a society in which values the letter of the law. And the letter of the law doesn't explicitly say that. That's funny.
Gets passed, it looks like it would probably hold up in court. Luckily, TJ Roberts is actually a friend of mine. We go way back to the YAL days. I got to talk to him on the phone a little bit earlier and kind of explain this legislation a little bit. He was, of course, one of the sponsors for the bill in Kentucky. So the way the bill is written, to my understanding, if you are eligible to buy a
the only thing that matters is you have a favorable judge.
Firearm in the state of Kentucky, meaning you don't
and
have
right
a history
now,
of mental illness.
The Supreme Court's looking pretty
you don't have a history of
favorable.
domestic violence, all the typical things that you would need to pass a federal NICS check anyway. So as long as you pass all of that, you would be eligible to buy a machine gun from the Office of Public Defense. So if you wanted to buy a full auto AR-15, You could do that.
Hell yeah,
and
brother.
Not only would the government be okay with it, they would be your dealer, and not for the inflated price of a transferable. I mean, every day.
I would totally buy a squad automatic weapon. Those things are fucking cool.
People buy clapped out transferable AR-15s or M16s and what have you for 15, 20 grand. I was told that this would be for market price plus a $250 transfer fee, which is nothing.
Yeah, that's like, holy shit, dude. $20,000. I'm gonna take more like, man, what would be a market price on that thing? Actually, I don't know. What is the market price of a M4 carbine? $1,000. So for like 1,000 to 1,400, 1,650, 20,000. So it'd be from 20,000 to maybe approximately 2,000. Amazing. That's awesome. Hell yeah.
Compared to what transferable machine guns go for nowadays. This is cool for a lot of reasons. One, you get to buy a fucking machine gun from the government. Never would have thought that would be in the cards. The other one is there's actually a pretty good argument that this is a good revenue generation tactic for the state.
I can see
the
that.
State of Kentucky was to sell 10,000 machine guns this way, which is not unreasonable. You generate $2.5 million in tax revenue just based on the fee alone. It's literally the same argument that people used for marijuana legalization. How much the tax revenue would generate for the state. In fact, one of the things Kentucky's working on right now is getting their
But that's
state
still federally
income tax
illegal.
down to zero. And this is one of the ways you could probably do that. I mean, according to Google, right now, Kentucky ended their 2025 fiscal year with a $312 million general fund surplus. And so far,
That's pretty
since
good.
2018, they've moved their state income tax from 5% incrementally down to currently 3.5%. So there's
Damn.
a chance Kentucky could do the most based shit ever right now, which is not only essentially legalize machine guns, but also do it while taking their income tax down to zero. I mean, if Thomas Jefferson was here to hear that sentence, he would have a throbbing heart. His heart would beat faster because he would be so excited.
Absolutely.
Now, currently, the way
That's
that these
exactly
bills are being
what
written,
would be.
it would only work within the state that the bill passes in. So if you were to purchase a machine gun from the state of West Virginia,
If you did that and you brought it to another state that did not have a law like this, you are capital F fucked.
it would only then allow you to keep that in West Virginia.
Yep.
If you bought it in Kentucky, they would have to stay in Kentucky.
Yep.
Now, what I was told was that if you want to sell it to another individual, as long as they're in your state, all they have to do is pay that $250 transfer fee, and you're able to pass that along just like it was a transferable machine gun.
Yep.
Which is pretty fucking cool. Now, what I'm not sure about that I think might be kind of fun to explore is if multiple states end up passing this legislation. What if you can get something kind of like reciprocity, like you have for concealed carry, where if you have your concealed carry permit in, let's say, Georgia, that it also applies to then Texas or wherever.
That's going to depend on what flavor of Kool-Aid is in power in the state. I 100% guarantee it. But if this does pass in 25 years, regardless of what flavor of Kool-Aid is in power, that will be honored in most states.
If, let's say, Texas were to pass a bill that were very similar to this, then maybe you could actually buy machine guns that were transferred from the state of West Virginia or Kentucky, and then you start building this basically NFA-proof infrastructure across the country,
Good.
at least the based states. I don't know if that's something that's feasible, but it opens up a lot of very cool opportunities that really weren't on the table before. Now, the big argument from the gun side of things is, oh, well, what's this going to do to value of transferable machine guns? You know, people saying, oh, you want
it's going to knock them all the way down, brother.
And the NFA, well, what happens to all the value of, people who've, been collecting transferables for years? The answer is I own several transferable machine guns. And yes, this would directly impact the value of that.
Good. Knock them down. I want my machine gun. Knock it down.
I would lose tens of thousands of dollars in value probably overnight. And my answer to that?
Fuck them.
I don't give a fuck. It's a stupid
Fuck 'em.
law. Shouldn't have been there in the first place. Anybody who's not willing to do the objective right thing, especially when it comes to something like gun rights, a constitutionally guaranteed right, just because it's going to negatively impact them financially, shouldn't be anywhere near the decision.
I'm going to say it again.
I think it's cool.
Fuck 'em.
And it's another nail in the coffin to the NFA. I mean, truth be told, we've been chipping away at the NFA for a long time now. It
Good.
kind of started with arm braces, kind of killing the SBR, SBSs, you know, short-barreled rifle, short-barrel shotgun rules. The slide fire, like the bump stocks, were kind of a big hit. And then, I mean, later on, it eventually led to the FRT, which is, I mean, if you don't have access to machine guns or an SOT or transferables or anything like that, I mean, an FRT is a pretty good stand-in. Not to mention with new lawsuits that are coming out right now, there's a pretty good chance the Supreme Court actually strikes down things like SBRs and SBSs and silencers from the NFA. Because according to a Supreme Court ruling, I believe from 1937, the only reason that suppressors and SBRs and everything like that, the only reason the NFA was allowed to pass in the first place as constitutional is because you were registering a tax, not the firearm. But thanks to the big, beautiful bill, although we didn't get the win we...
Which is what a lot of people don't understand is when it comes to gun legislation like this is you are registering a tax. And they're really stretching the definition of that.
Trying to get, which was the removal of SBRs and suppressors from the NFA entirely. They did remove the tax, which means it's now a $0 tax stamp. So if you're not registering the tax, what the fuck are you registering if not the gun? So there's a real good constitutional argument to be made there. If the Supreme Court takes it up, pretty good chance we can beat the NFA on that grounds as well. But my point being is it's like a death from a million pinpricks. I mean, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the NFA was just kind of this monolith. You really couldn't fuck with it. But even just in the last 20 years or so that I've been paying attention to the gun industry,
tear it all down.
We've chipped away at it piece by piece. And
you're gonna head out now? Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Have a great night.
I think this is the next domino to fall. The question is, will it pass? From what I've been told,
yes.
Probably not this time.
Damn it.
These are bills that are probably going to have to be revised and then put forward again at a new legislative session.
My heart
but this was an
can't
idea
take
that
much
didn't
anymore.
Even exist a year ago, and now we've got multiple states starting to come forward with similar legislation. So I think this has legs. I really do. And when one state does it and they can successfully defend it,
yeah, when one
a lot
domino
of other
falls,
base states are going to follow suit. And I already have people in the state legislature that I'm talking to right now in Texas to make sure that we are one of
God, I hope you get elected. Please, for the love of God, get elected.
Of those based states. Because you have my word on this. If somebody in Texas puts forward this legislation before the state house to try to get it passed, a similar bill to this, I will do everything in my power to make sure that it does pass. We will hold rallies. We will publicly call out state reps that don't back it. I will move heaven and earth to make sure that Texas does not get outshined by Kentucky or West Virginia. Nothing
Hell
on
yeah,
you
brother.
guys, but we have to have a little state pride here. Yeah, this is something that really wasn't on my radar until recently, so I figured you guys would get a kick out of this because this is the first time in my entire lifetime that it seems like there's an actual path to machine gun legalization, or at least effective machine gun legalization. Would I still like to see an eventual future without the NFA in its entirety? Of course, but you know, little incremental changes we can do along the way to just kind of coast our way there.
Taking one brick every
Shit doesn't
day
happen
is
overnight.
just
You
as
gotta do it one
effective
bite at a time. And
as hitting it
seems
once
like a
in
very
one day.
significant bite. That being said, I'll let you guys get back to your day. I'm excited to do a range video here soon.
We will
I feel like I haven't been doing enough
dismantle
shooting lately.
this oppression.
Kind of had a few things going on. But again,
Get rid
I
of 'em.
appreciate you guys staying with me through everything. And as always, I will see you sexy YouTube mother lovers in the next video.
Hell yeah.
Thanks. Oh, one more thing.
Oh,
I'm
one more
actually
thing.
going to be doing a machine gun helicopter shoot soon. A couple
Oh,
friends
that's
of mine
pretty
are going
cool.
to get together. We're going to film some stuff. Shooting machine guns from a helicopter is something that I've
Going-
done a couple times before. It's
Going to
it's
hog
a lot of
hunting?
fun. But to help raise a little bit of money for the campaign before the general election, where we have to fight the Democrats in November, we're doing a giveaway. If you want to come out and join me and a couple friends in shooting machine guns out of a helicopter, I've got some personal favorites picked out. Every
Oh,
donation to the campaign
I'd love
in
to,
increments of $5
but I don't live in
is an entry
Texas.
to that giveaway. So $5 is one entry, $10 is two, $100 is 20. Quick math. It goes towards our war chest to go fight the good fight, but it also is an opportunity to do some cool shit. So the links for that will be in the description and in the pinned comment.
Damn. Hell yeah. Bro, I never thought that I would live in a world in which abolishing the ATF and abolishing the FFL tax would possibly be on the table. But now I'm happy that I was born in the time that I was born. Oh my god, am I so happy that we're gonna get rid of that shit. Oh, God, I hope we do it. All right, this will be the last video of the night. We're gonna be talking about anime. We're gonna be talking about how Crunchyroll, their localizations have now been perturbing the Japanese, and I'm gonna be completely honest.
Hey, what's up, guys? Riff here.
It's been a long time coming. I want to get these people out of anime. I want to get them completely excised from the industry, and I hope to God that they are blacklisted and never translate again. Because when you insert current day politics into your anime, when you mistranslate things and purposely go out of your way to change the meaning of things, you are the problem. All right, Rev, what do we got?
Hey, what's up, guys? Riff here. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the absolute destruction of Crunchyroll, which of course is a massive streaming service.
Long time coming, by the way. That service is absolute dog shit, and I hate it.
For anime that's received a very high volume of deserved criticism over the years for various reasons. But right now, they're getting absolutely bodied on multiple fronts for very...
Remember, brought to you by the same people who funded and made, or in part made, High Guardian Spice.
Various controversies, like another massive data breach that includes about 7 million users' data that has now been largely sold off.
This makes me so happy that I don't use Crunchyroll. Like, I didn't sign up for Crunchyroll. I will never use their service. Like, I used it once, like, oh my God, it had to have been in like 2017-ish, 18-ish. I have no idea. It was a really long time ago. Maybe even longer. I don't remember. But whenever I used it, I was like, I'm never using this again. Now, I'm not going to tell you where I get all of my anime from. But let's put it this way. There is a reason why Gabe said that piracy is a service problem.
On top of that, it's been revealed that Japanese audiences are geo-blocked, meaning they can't even see the Western localized versions of anime that have completely vandalized.
Yeah, let's just go ahead. We're not gonna let them see it. They're gonna be unhappy. They're gonna be disappointed. We can't let the Japanese chuds win.
Source material, and many people think this is an attempt to hide these vandalizations in these various localizations.
Well, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck.
They're getting even more criticism for their anime awards for 2026 because of the judges panel, which includes individuals like this, whose biggest accomplishment is promoting DEI.
Founder of Anime and Chill, the UK's leading anime and gaming community. I don't believe that. That sounds like an absolute horseshit, dogshit lie. Can't lie to a liar. Let's put it that way. Everybody's a liar. Eneni Aban is a multi-award-winning community founder, creative technologist, and entertainment curator working across the global anime industry and gaming industry. She leads Anime and Chill, the UK's leading anime and gaming community known for their community-driven events. With over a decade of experience in UK anime fandom, as a longtime anime fan, Eneni is an established figure recognized for connecting the scene and championing spaces for underrepresented audiences. She has contributed to large-scale convention programming and curation, and consults with entertainment brands on DEI, community engagement, and influencer marketing, connecting campaigns with authentic, and it cuts off. Wow.
In the realm of anime,
I trust this person to judge anime. I trust them so hard to judge it incredibly harshly.
It is absolutely no mystery as to why people are continuing to cancel their Crunchyroll subscriptions. I really don't know how anyone is still using this service.
Man, we spent the last decade kicking the customer in the dick. I can't believe that they're not coming back to our platform. Don't they want to be kicked in the dick?
And
they love it, right?
If you are someone who canceled your subscription, you have a little extra cash around, well, I know a very good spot to use it. My official Red plushie. Yes, through Ooh Market. This is now live. I hinted at this a couple days ago. Today is the big day. this is my plushie campaign. As you can see, this is the little gremlin right here, and if you want to support the channel, this is an amazing way to do it. You guys know I've had some interesting experiences with multiple sponsors over the last year, but Ooh Market has had my back all throughout everything, and they are incredibly based for continuing to work with me and support me.
Good.
You can see the actual page here. We have to raise 100 units sold to fully fund the campaign.
I'm pretty
and
sure
it's been out for like an hour and we're already at 30%. So
most companies
good,
need to start learning to tell the loud voices on the internet to shut the fuck
just
up.
$3 now. And if the campaign were to fail, you would get refunded. But
because if you're trying to cancel somebody on the internet, like doing something like this for their community, then you're the problem.
We're 30% funded with a month to go. So I am not worried at all. I've met the full fundraising limits for every campaign I've ever done with every company. So this one will definitely be a success as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
So make sure to check it out. I mean, what else can I say? This gremlin is looking for a home, and this is a great way to support the channel. And also my wife Darling Straub has a plushie for her VTuber model as well. Same sort of setup here with the fundraising and the goals, and she's off to an amazing start as well. So if you want to check hers out, I'll put a link to both of these in the description. Shout out to Ooh Market again for supporting this campaign and the people who are helping support this channel by getting one of these. Now let's talk about today's topic, and that is Crunchyroll. Okay, so 2026 has been a really bad year, and honestly every year seems to be a bad year for Crunchyroll, but this one in particular has been rough. They started off by increasing their prices. Again, they're much like Netflix. It seems like every couple of months.
Updates membership pricing that gives fans more of what they love. So they up their prices.
Maybe checks out. So they hike up their prices. And people are just done with it because the quality.
Yeah, I'm not paying
of this
fucking $30
really
for fucking Crunchyroll.
So
You're not worth it.
And now, after hiking up the prices, hackers have breached their company and stole nearly 7 million users' data.
Jesus.
7 million. And how's that working out? Not very
I can't believe they have 7 million users. I'm going to be completely honest.
To keep this stuff from being breached. And I've talked about this before. This is not the first time this has happened. I pointed this out in 2023. There was a massive class action lawsuit regarding user information. And they, alongside Sony, received a class action lawsuit. They lost. And they were giving out money to millions and millions.
So what did they, Sony Pictures Entertainment and Crunchyroll reached a settlement on September 15th in a class action lawsuit between them and Salvador Beltran Jr., Eli Gross, and others, making Crunchyroll users in the United States eligible for approximate payment of US $30. The exact amount is not yet known. Users in the US who have registered, streamed, or otherwise used Crunchyroll website app are eligible for payment. Okay, but for what reason? The class action lawsuit alleged that Crunchyroll violated United States Video Privacy Protection Act by disclosing subscribers' personally identifiable information to Facebook and other third-party
subscribers because they put their users' personally identifiable information at risk. And back in 2023, I flexed how much of a Crunchyroll hater I was by showing people exactly how to get the $30 you were entitled to as an eligible subscriber. But let's fast forward to
this fucking website
and that data breach, the second one, I guess you could say. And now it appears that a lot of that data that was breached has been sold. Obviously to not
probably to cover the $30 for everybody.
About 2 million customer records have been up for sale, and a single buyer
so the person who got it
1.2 million of them. So all those people are at risk, and some have already had their information sold off to a single buyer. That does not look very good, ladies and gentlemen.
I wonder how much they bought it for.
As pointed out here in the replies, this is a very important thing to keep in mind. These data breaches keep happening, and they're still telling us to give them our IDs, and that is true.
Jesus, what a fucking shit show this is. Like, I cannot believe that they want people's ID and want to identify them on the internet whereas they can't even keep their own shit secure. Not only that, but like, bro, I don't want to have an ID for everything on the internet.
For many, many different platforms and services, they want your full government ID and all of your information.
And it is like, it is the people that are saying, well, I'm not doing anything wrong on the internet, I guess I'll give them my ID. You're the problem. You capitulate to these absurd demands, and I have to cash the check for your oversight.
Use their service or platform, and then they get breached. Almost
And I don't want
guaranteed.
to.
We saw with
I think
Discord,
a lot of people don't want
for
to.
example, that has been a massive disaster where they were asking for personal information like IDs, and then of course, lo and behold, shortly after, they're breached, and now all this stuff is being sold and traded around on the internet. Terrible, terrible stuff. But, point out in the quote here, again, this is not like some random shot out of nowhere involving Crunchyroll, not a one-time thing. This is a continued pattern of ridiculous behavior. This user saying, it's genuinely insane to me that anyone still defends Crunchyroll at this point.
Same.
Constant delays, episode delisting, and butchered subs. 2 separate class action lawsuits for mishandling data. Data breach they try to cover up. 1.2 million users' data from the breach sold to someone.
It is completely insane to me that this, like, anybody actually uses Crunchyroll. Like, I get it. Maybe some people are uninformed about that, and that's fine. It's your right to be uninformed about things. But once you become informed and you're still using Crunchyroll, I really got to ask, like, why? Like, why are you still doing that?
Online. And of course, Crunchyroll, in their very smug attitude, I guess, decided now's the time to alert subscribers about potential phishing attempts.
Oh, man.
I mean, the call is coming from inside the house. You guys are putting people at risk. I don't think it's the potential phishing attempts that subscribers should be worried about. I think it's Crunchyroll itself giving over any sort of personal information clearly is not being protected very well.
I can't believe that they had to run
this
that.
gets even worse. And this one I find very interesting because of a lot of things we've talked about with anime localizations and how they've been butchered as they're localized for overseas audiences.
Fucking live in clown
As
world
pointed
is
out
what
here,
we do.
Crunchyroll is unavailable in Japan due to licensing restrictions. This geo-block means Japan.
So, I will say, this could be true. Because I know licensing law is very strange in Japan, especially when it comes to international licensings for certain products that transfer borders. I've heard that it's weird. I've heard that it's strange. I've heard that it's a bit strenuous to work through. But this seems like something that probably wouldn't fall under it. So, in every lie, there is a kernel of truth. And it's telling me that this does seem like it could be true, which implies to me that this is incredibly false. I don't know. Just off the cuff there, shooting off the cuff, shooting from the hip.
Never see the Western localized versions of anime where subtitles are often rewritten, content is censored, and dubs are altered without anyone noticing the changes. Now, this is
and when they do, they're like, what the fuck?
Important to keep in mind here. There's not a huge market for Western localizations in
Japan. Yeah.
Obviously, they're not trying to watch Western localizations. They have the source material there in Japan for them. Why would they be looking at Western?
I could imagine that, like, you know, in other languages back in school, we used to watch like movies and stuff like that in other languages with subtitles, or we'd watch like a movie in in English with the subtitles for the language that we're watching or learning about. But like, I could imagine that could be a thing that maybe some high schools might want to do. I don't know if there's like any good anime for that, but I'm sure like Drymon or something like that, some type of like anodyne, nearly educational, maybe something like that anime could be used for that. And it would make sense because it's a product of Japan and it's a very like heavily prized product of Japan. Like, it is distinctly and uniquely Japanese as a learning tool for English. That being said, God willing, they don't get the localized version Because if anybody reads that localized version who knows any amount of English, they're going to be like, what the hell am I even reading?
Localizations. But there's definitely a very sinister aspect of this, and people are making what I think is a fair judgment, saying that really hides all of these localizations, where
it does.
Western translators and localizers are butchering the Japanese source material and injecting awful humor and unnecessary memes and political agendas into the work. And that's why largely a lot of this has gone unnoticed.
Gets me literally to roll my eyes every time I read it.
I receive a lot of messages from overseas about Crunchyroll, but it's geo-blocked and inaccessible from Japan. So it's pretty much an unknown world to most Japanese people. However, it's an issue that's very relevant to the overseas distribution of Japanese anime, so we should probably learn more about it. Please continue to share your knowledge. And this—
oh God, please. I would love to see Crunchyroll be brought up on the floor of the Japanese diet as like a major like issue. Please. Two things. If I live to see legalized machine guns and Crunchyroll getting sued into oblivion by the Japanese government.
This is also a really interesting time for this to happen. A couple days ago, I made a video talking about the great crossover between Japanese and American users, where due to some changes in the algorithm, some auto translated features that are getting better on Twitter, there's a lot of interaction between Japanese speakers and English speakers right now.
And it's all hilarious because the Japanese people don't give a fuck. They don't give a flying fuck. Thank God.
Now, and they're kind of learning about each other more than ever. And this is the type of stuff a lot of people have been trying to make Japanese users aware of, that these pieces of source material coming out of Japan, like anime and manga, are being absolutely butchered and vandalized as they're localized for a Western audience. A lot of Japanese users are not aware of this at all. There is a huge disconnect, and the fact that Crunchyroll, one of the biggest culprits of this, is geo-blocked for Japanese users.
Oh yeah,
is one of the reasons why this has gone undetected. But as pointed out here,
well, I mean, like, I also think that it probably is going undetected, like I said, because of the language barrier, where not a lot of people, as you said, probably watch the English translation or the Western translations. I mean, especially in languages that aren't English. Like, I could imagine that not too many people in Japan are doing that.
The site is accessible, but it looks like this. A presence that is both close and distance. And you can see, I mean, there's really just nothing to really do here. I mean, it's an inaccessible platform for them. They can get to it, but they're not getting any sort of idea of how it's being translated to overseas audiences. And as pointed out here in the quotes, Japanese rights holders should revoke Crunchyroll's licensing rights to these shows, or take them to court for copyright infringement. They're literally geo-blocking Japanese audiences so they can rewrite and pervert the original stories to fit whatever self-insert agendas they want to push. And here is the classic example.
Diminishing.
If you're not familiar with,
they are diminishing the cultural impact of Japan around the world, which is very bad. This one's hilarious too. I can't believe that this
jewel of everything wrong with these Western.
Like, I liked Dragon Maid in the original Japanese with the original subtitles. Why? Because they translated directly what was being said. Funimation can go fuck themselves.
Localization. So this is the properly translated subtitles, not localizations, just the regular subtitles that are translated. What's with the outfit?
In plain language.
Everyone was saying something to me, so I tried toning it down, or toning down the exposure. How is it? You should try changing your body next. Here is the localization where the Funimation, now part of Crunchyroll, dub decided,
which, by the way, completely changes the meaning.
We need to change this up to make it digestible for our Western audience.
Right.
So they made it this, okay? What are you wearing that for? Oh, these pesky patriarchal societal demands were getting on my nerves, so I changed clothes. Give it a week, they'll be begging you to change back.
It's so nefarious because the first part of this, what's with that outfit and what are you wearing that for, are analogous. I could see a world in which both of those could be translated interchangeably to one another. This one's a little bit more pointed, but it could fit the scene. Especially because there's a lot of passive and active language that doesn't translate from language to language because of, euphemisms and how people word things. The next one, though, everyone was always saying something to me, so I tried toning down the exposure. How is it? Okay, that's true. Everybody in the show always made a joke about your body. Everybody knows that. It makes sense. You're like, okay, yeah, maybe I should, so I'm going to go ahead and try something different. Oh, those pesky patriarchal societal demands were getting on my nerves, so I changed clothes. Okay, hang on. That does not mean the same thing. That doesn't even closely resemble anything about what you just said. In fact, it even changes the character to a point where it's just like, okay, what the fuck is that? I guess she's just a bitch. She said it like that. Oh
Yes,
my god,
that is
dude.
the kind of slop that these localizations are forcing upon the source material when they're localized by Crunchyroll and others for a Western audience. And a lot of the Japanese users and rights holders have no idea this is happening.
It's so dumb.
This is why original creators rarely notice their work being vandalized to fit some misguided political agenda or a localizer's narcissistic
I think vandalize
fantasy.
is the right word.
The last time
I
we
like that
actually
word
got
for it.
good quality localizations was in the fan sub era.
Yes, please bring back the fan sub era. Oh my god. Some of them were legendarily bad, but some of them, most of them, were decent to legendarily good. Because, and bear with me on this, the people who were translating it cared. Wow.
I hope more creators wake up, cut ties with these people, and hire staff who actually love anime, manga, and games.
Yes.
And I like how they point out the narcissistic fantasy, because that is
true.
the heart of the issue. With these localizers
So
who are
true.
nothing more than activists, self-important activists who are narcissists, who want to force their agenda on everyone because they believe they have the right to do so. They don't care that they're vandalizing someone else's work. They're
These
just using
people,
it as
man.
a chance to exercise
Can't
their
deal with them.
narcissism.
Like it sets
But
me off every
continue
time.
on and see people actually defending this. Yes, actually defending this.
Crunchyroll doesn't do any of the dubbing of their anime, you fucking moron. No, they just hire people to do it. They hire the companies that do it. Imagine.
This user's
Also, he's tattling on himself by immediately calling somebody a moron, which is very indicative that he is in fact the moron.
saying Crunchyroll doesn't do any of the dubbing of their anime. You're a effing moron. As this user points out, the source for their claim is Crunchyroll's website itself.
Crunchyroll produces anime subtitles using teams consisting of translators, timers, editors, and reviewers. The teams use a subtitle software to output a file that includes both text and the timing cues for when to be displayed.
Crunchyroll produces anime
Literally took a 2-second Google search, and Mr. Judge of people's intelligence couldn't do it.
subtitles using teams consisting of translators, timers, editors,
God, who
and
would've thought?
reviewers. The teams
Way to tattle on
use,
yourself, Kenny.
Subtitling software to output a file that includes both the text and the timing cues for when it will be displayed. Yes, so that person is completely wrong. The average Crunchyroll defender, by the way. But here is the last thing I want to talk about. So there is the Anime Awards hosted by Crunchyroll for 2026. It's coming out next month. And this is getting clowned on, rightfully so. People do not trust what is going to go on with the voting because this is the judges panel. And you see a whole host. There's a lot of people. But let's just get some quick examples, right? You have an individual like...
This seems like it should be a compendium of people who you should excise from the industry.
this. Okay, here's one of the judges. And you can see that there's someone who was a managing editor
Of GameSpot, yes, because we all trust GameSpot.
that is known for making endless anti-anime related articles chastising the medium while, of course, using it for their articles to make money. And when it comes to GameSpot, I remember one article in particular where they were describing the Konosuba movie.
The whole... Oh, okay. I'm not going to read all of this. I just see this line, the whole scene comes off deeply transphobic. Okay.
As deeply transphobic when
Sure,
it came
buddy.
to a chimera in the movie that had male parts but identified as a woman. It was a gag. And when Kazuma, the main character, discovered that this was actually someone who was
I remember that
biological
scene being
male,
a meme.
he freaked out, okay, because he was getting a bit handsy with this creature. And this person thinks that was deeply transphobic.
Sure,
so
buddy.
They're trying to police Konosuba, and their recommendation was to not watch this, by the way. And the irony, of course, is that I went to Crunchyroll's Twitter, and one of the most recent posts is celebrating Konosuba. You can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. But here's the one a lot of people are talking about. This is one of the other judges, where you
I wish they would all be talked about in equal measure.
can see this person is
Get
the
them out of my
founder
fucking
Anime and
second
Chill,
hobby.
the UK's leading anime and gaming community, and that is already concerning given everything that's going on in the UK with censorship and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Very, very unfortunate time to be someone in the UK who wants to actually enjoy your media and including social media without being
you get nothing and you'll be happy.
Subjected to censorship.
Average
or even
British
being
mentality.
Arrested for things that you want to see that are totally fine, and also things you want to say that are just totally fine, but it's wrong speak or wrong think, whatever.
This really does
it.
get me like...
But
all this shit really does is just get me so pessimistic about things. It's just like... these people just are... I have such a cynical view on it. It's like they're using it as a pulpit for their own personal ideologies, and it really makes me upset that normal people, normies, aren't activated enough to get rid of them, because they are the ones that are being directly influenced by whatever is happening. And we, or at least a lot of people, sound like they're just screaming at clouds, but really it's just taking advantage of their unplugged in nature. It's so scummy.
Her big contribution is to a large-scale convention, programming, and curation where there is consultation with entertainment brands on DEI, community engagement, and influencer marketing, which is connecting campaigns with authentic voices in the anime community. Authentic voices. I wonder what that means, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, when your biggest contribution is spreading DEI, I don't think people want to tune in for whatever you're...
No, you hit too many trigger words in that statement. There's so many things, and I'm not using triggered as in people are triggered. I'm saying that in like a more generalist sense. Everybody's going to read this and they're just immediately going to be like, okay, yeah, so your opinion doesn't matter. Put it in the bin.
Judging. I don't really trust anything you are doing. But
yep. And now you are intrinsically linked to the panel of judges. You have polluted the panel of judges. Put the panel of judges' opinion in the bin. Nobody cares anymore. You've ruined it by hiring these people, and these people have ruined everything good by existing. Great. We love to see it.
Failures for Crunchyroll, and they're dealing with multiple fronts here, and it's all their own creation. Like, you reap what you sow. The classic line rings
and you've
true
sown
yet
terrible
again because, well,
terrible
they have
things.
created all this mess for themselves, whether it's the data breach because of their own failures to protect that, or this new anime awards,
fucking gross ass
given their choices
dubs
for the judges, on top of the geo-blocking, which is a whole nother issue that really highlights what people have been criticizing localizers for years, which has fallen on deaf ears.
I think a lot of
who keeps allowing this to happen.
I think a lot of Japanese companies, at least for now, have invested some time in their own in-house localizers for Western companies, which I think is really good. I'm happy that they're finally waking up to it.
But yeah, hopefully more Japanese users figure this stuff out and learn about it and help do something about it. But
please,
for now, that's going to do it for today's video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below.
Hell yeah,
Hope you guys
brother.
enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.
See you next time, Rev. Well, not only that, but this is a big see you next time for everybody else. Why am I not? Boom. Guess I'm not subscribed. I am going to go ahead and call it here for the night. I hope everybody had a great time. I am so happy to be able to get into all of these videos. I'm so happy that I'm able to put my opinion out there. I don't think you understand, and I'm happy that you're around for the journey. So thank you all for tuning in, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a continuation of our indie games. We're going to be doing the Dungeon of Blood and Dream, and I believe Blueprints, which are both kind of roguelites. So we'll probably divide the time into half for each of them. And, you know, I hope you enjoy. Please join the Discord if you want for my full breakdown of my schedule. I post one every week, and we interact and have a great time together. Get the vote for indie games that are our Thursday indie games, which, you know, I post every week as a vote for the community of which one we might want to play on Thursday. And, you know, we'll find games that we're going to pick up and play along the way. Anyway, I hope everybody has a great night, and yeah, see you later.